kind of clean it up and be a little more specific that it can't be granted unless there's a principal structure to begin with.
Okay, is there any questions from anyone that's in the Zoom right now? And well, Sue Look has, I'm not sure how that's working with call-ins.
So far, there have been no call-ins.
Okay. So the next one is it's Article 13A, 13B, 13C of the Land Use Ordinance, Open Space Subdivisions. Says new policy language for road connectivity under Article 13A. New proposed under 13A2, item K, describing road connectivity purposes and safe turning curves.
Yeah, the curve one was kind of more self-explanatory that the radii had to meet the current what the fire department needed at this time. I think we had to update that. The continuity was basically something before it was not in, and it wasn't in the ordinance before, is to look at if a subdivision was to come in, that we look at the possibility that the road from that one subdivision could possibly join another road in the near future. It was not in there, and the planning board and the planner felt that it would be not a bad idea to have that in there to look at future subdivisions. Again, we haven't had one in quite a while, but just to have that ability that if there is that, if it butts another property, that they keep a right of way that they could connect in the future if possible.
Questions on that from anyone? Okay, the next one is Section 4, application procedures, and Section 5, street design standards of the Raymond Street Ordinance is adopted May 18th, 2002, be amended through June 4th, 2013, be amended by adding the underscored language and removing the language and strikeouts. That's regarding Section 4 is to add on using LiDAR and satellite. Section 5 was revising and adding standards and tables.
Okay, the LiDAR was, we had run into several occasions where people have come in for a private way and or backlot driveway where the elevations were not correct, and it made for a little more, had to go, basically they'd have to go back and recalculate some figures for phosphorus. This was, rather than having to go through that all the time, we decided that it would be better if we had more than one form. That way we could be more accurate with our elevations to avoid that situation. And then let's see, the other one was, that was for the LiDAR. And forgive me, what was the other one?
The other was road design plan should be provided with a site benchmark for construction posting elevation information meeting NABD 88 datum.
Yeah, I mean, it basically has to do with the same thing, that they confirm what the elevations are prior to a planning board approval. Again, just to make sure that the elevations are correct, as we, like I said, we have run into it several times that the elevations were not, they were off quite a bit. And this just gives us a little more accuracy for the roads.
Scott, what is LiDAR?
I knew you were going to ask me that.
Yes, sir, I am.
Jim could probably explain it a lot better than I can. Basically, what a lot of them do now are just use this GPS, and it is okay. The LiDAR is more, I'd have to check, but I believe it is more satellite related, a more accurate form of a measurement.
Okay, I'm familiar with the process. I just didn't know it applied here. Thank you.
Yep.
You know, LiDAR is a radar technology, so.
Yes, it is, yeah.
It also appears that in that there was also some things under item 5 in regards to paved shoulder width and depth of or thickness of pavement.
Yep. Yeah, we had noticed that on a couple occasions that was 1.5 inches, which is severely under what is the town standards now. So we came up with the 2.5 to bring it up to date. Same with the shoulders. It was just more or less an update, bring us up to more what's really in our current town standards and state standards on some of that.
Other questions in regards to that? So look, I'm assuming if you get a call, you'll chime in that you've got it.
That is correct.
Okay. Okay, next is Article 27, which is shall Article 1 of J of the Town Raymond Subdivision Ordinance as adopted May 21, 1994, and amended through June 4th of 2019 be further amended by adding the underscored language and removing the language and strikeout. And this is in regards to add the purpose and review criteria section under Article 1J to include compliance with net residual area for determining allowable number of proposed lots.
That was, I think it was just a movement of that. It was in the ordinance before, but it was not in where we're moving it now. It was kind of in a separate article and it should have been brought over with that. That's just so it makes it a little easier when we're going through the process of a subdivision, that everything is kind of neat and together. It was like more of just kind of bringing it over where it already existed. It was in a different section that really didn't, it would made it hard. You had to look for it rather than making it easier and putting it with the current section where it is going to be at. It just made it more, it seemed logical to put it there.
Questions on that? The next is, shall Article 4A, C, and D of the land use ordinance be further amended by adding the underscored language and removing the language and strikeouts as in addendum 6. This is in regards to add timber harvesting as an allowed use under section 4A on the village residential district. Add timber harvesting is allowed in 4C rural district. Adding timber harvesting is allowed under Article 4D on rural residential. And striking out the language in the paragraph under 4A under village residential bulk regulations.
Yeah, the timber harvesting, even though it was kind of, it's one of those things was always assumed allowed, but was never mentioned being allowed. And there had been a couple towns where they were actually denied the ability to harvest because it was not listed as a permittable use, permittable use. So it was just decided that we should put it in there just to clarify that it is allowed, rather than going under the assumption that it is.
Questions on that? Okay, Article 29. Shall Article 12, applicability, definitions, and terms and use in the ordinance of the Raymond Land Use Ordinance be amended or be further amended by adding the underscored language and removing the language in the strikeouts. And this is in regards to adding a definition of accessory apartments to include a single family lot density shall not apply to single family homes, adding one accessory apartment. So I think this is the one we were starting to talk about before.
Yeah. Well, this is actually a clarification because under accessory apartments are allowed, but it doesn't specifically say that they don't come under a definition of another dwelling unit, which would require more land and more acreage and more road frontage to put that accessory apartment in there, that was not the intent of the accessory apartment to begin with. It just was the kind of more clarifying that it's not under any kind of, it's not subject to any standards, land use standards for that, for an accessory apartment. Because otherwise, if they were to do that, they would have to have, some of those were required to have double the road frontage and double the lot coverage. And originally that was not what the intent was of the accessory apartment.
Questions on that?
Do these accessory apartments need to be attached or detached to the main building?
According to our ordinance, they are allowed, it specifically says they are allowed to be detached or attached. It does not specify which one they have to be.
So that would bring in a sewer system and a driveway, is that correct?
Possibly, usually on those accessory apartments, we wouldn't allow for another driveway. You're only allowed one driveway per lot. So they would have to come in off of their existing driveway no matter what. And again, it gets kind of different because it is another address for 911, but it's not considered another dwelling because of it's restricted by size.
On a detached unit, how do they connect to the sewer?
They can connect to, as long as they have the ability, they can go into the tank of the existing system, or they can have their own system under the regulations, as long as that existing system can handle the addition of the accessory apartment. There is a statute in there that a accessory apartment is considered to be a minor expansion. Therefore, a system has to be designed, but it does not have to be put in ground, but it has to be designed and given to the office, saying, basically it just says if the system was to fail, you have the ability to put a system that would meet everything that you currently have.
My understanding of sewer systems is they're based on the number of bedrooms, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so if somebody brings in a mobile home and a 3-bedroom house and brings in another 2 bedrooms, they need a 5-bedroom system, is that correct?
Correct. Or if they have their own separate system, yeah, but yes, they can have more than one system per property. There isn't anything stopping them from that. But yes, I would have to look at the full bedroom count of the accessory apartment and the dwelling.
And that assumes that they are distanced from the water lines and all that.
Yeah, I mean, the water lines, it's the septic system. Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing that they have to be separated from the well a certain distance. The septic system does, and that's the whole thing behind getting a new system designed that it can fit on that property. Sometimes they may have to move it from an existing system now. You can go where an existing system is. If that malfunctions, you can dig that up. It's a little more labor intrusive to do so with materials. More materials you have to dig out, but the separation rules and everything follow through with that as far as how far they got to be away from the septic, and they have any buried water lines you can't go over a septic system and stuff like that. But yes,
I'm all set, Scott. Thank you.
Other questions on that? Next is shall section 4 definitions of the Raymond's Peddlers Ordinance adopted May 21 and amended through June 4th be further amended by adding the underscored language and removing the language in the strikeouts. This is in regards to add mobile unit vendors to section 4B, revised under section 4C, size restriction, strike out 150 square foot for occupied space and revised to 200 square feet. And let's see, strike out the revised language for license section 4F, to say revised to licenses shall be issued by the Board of Selectmen, and an application must be submitted at a minimum of 30 days prior to a regularly scheduled Board of Selectmen meeting.
yep. So this was added on because we had several inquiries of a food truck. However, they had gone beyond. They had always come in way beyond the date required under the existing language. It just made it harder. You basically had to apply, I believe, in April at that time. And sometimes some of these things can take place you know, they usually will know a month in advance if they wanted to do it. This is mostly spurred on by Mexicali Blues had a very high interest in it. And this is just to kind of make it a little easier. If they do want to come in, they're going to have to do it 30 days prior to. They're still going to have to come up with all the other insurances and stuff like that before they're issued a license, but it just kind of allows them to not apply so far ahead. We still going to keep the 2 per licenses. I mean, we don't expect anything big, but it usually, like I said, it's just been one business expressing wanting to do that. And like I said, being the time restraints that are on there, a lot of times people don't know they're even going to do it. And by April, it's usually May or June. They figure they're going to have somebody there July or August. This just allows them the ability to do that.
Questions on that? Okay, next one is Article 5, Section K, fines of the Raymond Land Use Ordinance adopted May 21, 1994, amended through June 4th, 2019, be further amended by adding the underscore and language and strikeouts, and this in regards to strike out the current wording and replace the language consistent with the language in the shoreline zoning relating to fees for consistency.
Yep, that was brought up by the town attorney when I had some questions on some fines. Our language in our land ordinance was outdated. It mentions the word misdemeanor, which they aren't anymore. He suggested that we basically use the language that refers to the state statute for fines, and that way it can be adaptable and just to basically update for the fines.
Questions? Okay, next one is referendum question AD, dealing with appeals procedure for the Raymond Land Use Ordinance. So strike out current wording describing scheduling of meetings on the last day of the Monday of the month, replace it with Board of Appeals to schedule meetings as necessary.
Yep, that's the one I was talking about at the very beginning. It basically made it sound like we had to meet no matter whether we had a appeal or not. And this just basically gives the board the ability to meet when needed, just to kind of clean it up a little bit.
Questions? Okay, next is Article 33, question AE. Shall the ordinance be amended? This is the sign ordinance, the section L, 2 signs permit an application, and strike out the word content with types of messages. Section L, sign 3, remove the word political. Section L, remove the entire bulletin board, reader board, connection with churches, etc. Section L, signs, temporary signs and temporary advertising fixtures, remove the entire temporary political signs and content under that subsection. And in L, signs 11, non-conforming signs, remove subsection E, sections about as outdated appears irrelevant.
That's, again, that was from the town attorney to reflect recent Superior Court decisions on signage. They cannot separate them into different categories. It has to be a general fine. You can't put religious signs and real estate signs. You can't put them in their own individual categories. They have to be under one in general.
What are you doing, or what are we doing with political signs?
Well, I mean, they still fall under the guise of the state as far as how long they can stay up. But there isn't, I mean, as far as us, I mean, we're still using that. It's just that we don't mention it in our ordinance. We just use the state statute for that.
Okay.
Other questions? Okay. Next is Article 34, question AF. Shall a new ordinance entitled Town of Raymond Business License Ordinance be enacted? This is a whole new ordinance. So,
This is spurred, like, I had brought it up before the Board of Selectmen a while ago, just to make sure that we were on track on that, as far as getting some kind of input as to what you would be interested in. But again, this came about is that we issue business license. However, there is no teeth behind it if someone refuses to pay their personal property tax, or if they aren't compliant with fire safety. I had talked to Phil about this. Basically, this allows, it would be, as we talked, it would be a multi-year license. However, they would go in front of the board. However, they'd get reviewed. They get in front of the board to get their original license and then be reviewed every year by the clerk. Would have to sign off to make sure that the fire department and the building code, or they are okay with them to continue business. In other words, they've been working with them whether to make them more compliant. Another reason for it is to make sure that they are compliant, because Wayne could probably speak to that. We have run into it before where a new business will go in there and there is a backlog of years of issues of not somebody bringing their building compliant. This also would help us that if we renew it yearly and it'd be up for debate, if it is denied or we feel that the fire department feels they have not lived up to their obligation or we have a code issue, they are allowed to go to appeal to you as to, if they feel that they are wronged by our decision. This just kind of, like I said, it kind of helps the fire department, gets our businesses up to date, keeps people to pay their personal property taxes, which we did not have in there before.
So can I ask something then? So how would this work? Would you take the businesses that are already there? Does their license run out? Would you have them come in under a new program as to the town? How would this whole thing work?
Yeah, that's one of the things that we're trying to figure out is when they would we stagger people coming in? Would we do it all at once to say they have to reapply? We may work out, again, they might have to tweak it a little bit, but we're trying to figure out exactly how we can get everybody in and up to date with that. It may be something as simple as sending out notices that existing businesses require to apply for a new business license, and have to pick a date, whether it be May 1st or whatever. We don't have a lot of businesses out there commercial wise, so it wouldn't be an overwhelming thing, but I think Sue would agree that she would rather have it probably a little tapered if we can, as to bringing everybody into compliance with the new ordinance.
Would there be a fee for this then?
Well, that's the other thing. We had discussed as to whether or not we should up our fee. Currently, it is $25, a one-time fee, but that is also mean no inspections or anything else. I talked to Wayne, and they do not charge for they charge for their occupancy permit, but they don't charge anything after that. Again, this would probably back in your court as to what we would set the fee at. We had contemplated whether or not $50 would be something, with a portion of that going to the fire department where they're going to be conducting these yearly inspections anyway.
So when you say the occupancy, who charges money for the occupancy permit? Is it the town or is it the fire department? Who is that?
Well, the town doesn't. I don't know if Wayne does something different. Is Wayne?
No.
Yeah, I'm right here.
Hi. Do you guys charge for it? Who charges for the occupancy permit? Or is that something that the businesses get without a charge?
Currently, for the business inspections that we do, there is no charge.
Okay. So then a business comes in, they get the application, they set it up now, but any new businesses, if we do go forward with this, any new businesses would have to have it renewed. So we, like you said, so we have some kind of teeth in on them is what it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Do you know of any buildings in town that are out of compliance now with any ordinances? And if so, would those be grandfathered under this?
Well, I'll let Wayne answer that, but I'll let Wayne answer that one.
As far as non-compliance, there wouldn't be any grandfathering. If they're non-compliant, they need to be able to bring their building up to code. We have, on occasions, tried to work with businesses, have them submit a written plan of correction. Say there's a hardship or they're not able to fund the repairs immediately. If they propose a plan, we review it and try to work with the business to get them in compliance over a relatively short time frame.
And as far as current businesses, I know we have gone into a couple last year. I don't recall anything this year, but where a gentleman has basically prolonged, shall we say, his wanting to be hooked up to a fire alarm system. Again, this would kind of, what happens is sometimes these things they just get dragged on. Basically, it's a kick the can theory. They just deal with, somebody else deals with it later. And we have run into it in a couple years ago. One was a gentleman moved into the building behind Ray's Barber Shop. That one was definitely lagging behind. And I think we had another issue with where the tattoo parlor is too, bringing that up originally to compliant, I believe. And I think there might have been something with the small bakery right on that same, right next to the tattoo parlor. I mean, it does happen, this, but not very often, but it does.
So if you guys were to pass, if we were to pass this, and there's still questions to it, when do those questions get worked out?
Well, after talking to attorney, he says we had talked about if something comes back that they want, that you would wish to have more explained, as long as I can't. Sue, you and I had that talk with the attorney, and I can't remember exactly how all that went, but you recall that I believe it was that we would have the ability to tweak something as long as we had it before it went out to ballot. I'm not sure on that.
No, we would have to have another public hearing if we were going to make major changes to it. So
Okay,
as it is now, what it would do is help some of the office staff, because there are times when folks aren't as forthcoming with personal property taxes or with the personal property declaration forms that they're supposed to fill out, I believe, every year. So that's going to help the town staff immensely. Scott and I did discuss $50 every 5 years. The license right now is 25 lifetime, but then we never know what happens to the business afterwards, because we never hear from them. There's no follow-up to see, are they still compliant?
but we're not being business friendly though either, but that $50.
Well, it's not a very big fee.
Exactly. That's what I mean. I mean, we're not charging them an arm and a leg, just to
Right.
try to keep them compliant, be easier to keep up with things this way. And $50, yeah, that's nothing.
Well, the fact is, fees are not in the ordinance. Fees would be picked up in the fee schedule,
Hmm.
which
No.
is reviewed annually. So
And it's reviewed later tonight, yes.
Scott, would you take me down the road a little bit on a worst case scenario? Where are the teeth and how would they be applied?
Worst case scenario, I'd say, well, we could do two. One would be non-compliant with life safety. I'm sure that would be, if they're reviewed yearly, let's say the first year we have several issues. They do not comply. Second year, we decide to say that you either get this complied or come yearly review, we will ask that your license be revoked until these issues are cleared up. Then usually that's enough to get people going to get them compliant. Like again, they may appeal to you as the board to say that we're, you know, whatever they may say, whether it's unjust or it is not, they're trying to do what they're supposed to do. The backing is that, you know, legally this gives us the opportunity to do that. You can take them to, you can eventually take them to small claims court if you wanted to for the personal property taxes. That's where it can go for that. And then as far as the state ones, we could basically, if we do not, we can tell the state that we have revoked their business license. If they serve anything, the state itself will usually follow through and revoke it until it is cleared up.
Well, if I read section 8 correctly here, the actual suspension or revocation of a license is done in most cases by the selectmen, unless it's an emergency or it's something that requires immediate, then it can be done by the code enforcement officer. But essentially, it comes back to the select board to revoke or suspend a license. So
Correct. It'd be basically, we could just recommend that the license be from you. I mean, yes, because you did issue the license to begin with.
Yeah.
So at that point, at that
and that would require a hearing and whatnot. So
the overall authority is now the select board and not the fire inspector or you.
that's
As
for
far as-
suspension or revocation, unless it's in a life, a life-threatening event, then they have the authority to go in and do it, to suspend it immediately. But other than that, if I'm reading section 8 correctly, then it has to come, it gets recommended to the select board reviews it and renders a decision.
But those guys are out there trying to make it work, trying to get them to comply. And then when they don't, then they come back to us.
Thank you.
Other questions on that? And the next would be the layout of the voting of the warrant articles, which typically are done at town meeting, but because of where we are now and the fact of not being able to get town meeting done any other, in a reasonable way, was to lay out all the money warrant articles and things like that into voting articles. So if there's any questions on how, I guess it would be a question of how it's laid out, or if there's any general questions on that, we can address those at this point. The actual numbers that are in there for the purpose of the public hearing right now may or may not change depending on what the select board votes are on the individual warrant items when we take that in the second part of the meeting. So right now it's more looking at that from a layout standpoint and from a, if there's any questions at that level as far as what it is and what's in any of the articles and things like that, those can be addressed at this time. Seeing no questions and no phone calls.
No phone calls.
Okay, at this point, then I will close the public hearing and we'll go back into the regular selectmen's meeting. First order of business is item 4A, consideration of renewal liquor license for Fisherman's Catch. Who's speaking in regards to that?
I will. Fisherman's Catch has had an inspection. There's one item that needs to be addressed, for them to be totally compliant. Our recommendation would be, as you have done in the past, to do a conditional approval, subject to them completing the deficiency, and the fire department is sending you a notification through Sue, that that's been corrected.
What is the deficiency?
The fire alarm system every year is required to be inspected, tested, and maintained, and then submit that report to the fire department. The testing and maintenance and the report hasn't been completed as of today, so I don't expect that would take a very long period of time. He's working to get his fire alarm company in to get that taken care of.
Are we
So
met-
what about, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Teresa.
No, I was gonna bring up, so it's my understanding that he still owes personal property taxes. So where do we stand with that, with holding a license until that's paid?
When it comes to the liquor licenses, we can't withhold our end right now. We'd have no teeth, which is why we're going after it through the business license. We've been told that the Department of Liquor could possibly do something with their liquor license. However, we've had a bit of a difficult time getting in touch with them, I believe, haven't we, Sue?
Yes, I've had a very hard time trying to get them to answer the phone or call me back.
The liquor license or the fisherman's catch?
The liquor license.
Okay. Well, then if we can't do anything, this would be one of those examples that Scott and Wayne are talking about. Okay,
Don, I
we
know
have
that
here-
you were, yeah. Don, I know
think
you
we
were
have here-
trying to get hold of them, so.
I think we have a 10-year delinquency here, order of magnitude about $1,200 or thereabouts, 1,200 some dollars. Is that correct, Sue? I think I sent an email out about that today. So to me, a 10-year delinquency for that amount of money is akin to the $50, business license over 5 years. It's a de minimis amount of money when you're in business. And I don't know, is it something that is actionable with respect to withholding the liquor license, but it's certainly not the way you want to operate a business in my mind.
Has he given any explanation for this, Sue?
He just has told me he's not paying it.
Oh, okay. We'll see what
so
happens
Dawn, you're
next year then.
saying, sorry, Marcel. So Dawn, you're saying operate a business like us, the selectmen, to enforce that, or coming from the fisherman's net?
I'm saying that, he's been noticed by the town that he has this obligation under law. He has not met this obligation. It may not be actionable related to the liquor license renewal, but it's, not, in my view, good business and, contributing to the public charge in the way that a business is required to under law. And so that's what I'm saying.
Nope, I get it. And all the other businesses are paying up and keeping up with stuff, so.
So, I mean, essentially, if we look at this, in kind of a different slant, that if the business license ordinance passes, then in subsequent years, when he comes, that would then be something that in the renewal of the license or the granting of the license would be something that could be taken into consideration as far as the granting of that, correct?
That's the way I'm looking at it.
The other point, I don't want to unreasonably withhold licenses, but Mr. Coppersmith was notified of this meeting, correct? And so he's elected not to be here. Normally, normally people do attend unless unless we tell him that we have no outstanding issues. He has an outstanding issue, and so just a point. Although I guess the Beacon's not here either, is that correct?
That's correct, but I also know they're open tonight and they're only using family to run, so it could be they aren't able to attend.
And they don't have any outstanding issues
That's correct.
Exactly.
related to this.
Right. They may,
Okay.
I believe they're still awaiting an inspection. Is that correct, Wayne?
Okay, I
That's
don't want to get off on them, but I'm just saying that, you know, he could have a reasonable expectation. There might be questions about this.
Well, so let me ask this question then. You're saying it goes back 10 years, so are we talking $120 a year is what he's not paid? Or was that bill from 10 years ago that was $1,200?
I would have to defer to someone in the collections. Car,
That'd be too far.
He owes, it's roughly $100 a year. So the total would be that 12,000 or 10,000, whatever.
1,200.
1,200, I mean, yeah. I don't have it in front of me, so,
A whole new number.
yeah. I'm trying to
What-
make it for you.
Okay, but-
When I looked it up for Dawn this afternoon, the 10th year was like $57. So maybe he paid part of it or something, but after that it was like 90 something and 80 something. And then it got up to 100, depending on when the mill rate, where the mill rate was.
Okay, but if my memory serves me correctly, which it doesn't always, but it seems to me when we had this discussion last year, that the issue was he wasn't going to make good for the stuff that was due in the past, but he was going to start paying it going forward. Has he paid it for this year?
He paid the first half and that's it.
So $50.
Yeah, but we apply it to the old taxes first.
I
So
I understand how we apply it, but I mean, you know, when we look at from the standpoint of, you know, what is, you know, where are we going with this going forward? If he's at the point where he's saying, okay, you know, essentially, I'm disputing what happened 8 years ago, or, you know, in the time past, but now I'm on notice that I'm obligated to make this payment. If he's doing that, you know, the fact that we're applying it to the oldest thing is not germane per se to the fact of his intent of going forward, that he'll be paying it on an ongoing basis going forward. The other is, do we write off the old bad debt? But if it is, he's saying, I'm not going to pay it going forward either, well, that's an entirely different scenario.
So he said, I think it was last year was the question. So I think it would have started last year moving forward. So did he pay last year's then, Sue?
no, he did not.
So if he didn't pay, because that's when I think the whole thing came in question, was last year about it. So if he's not paying that last year, then he's not doing what you're saying, Rolf. He's not moving forward from then on. It's the way I'm reading it. So, but right now, we can't really do anything with that.
So I mean, you know, at this point, it comes down to an enforceability issue. We have nothing that we
Right.
can enforce on it at this point. Going
Right.
forward, if that other ordinance passes, then we have something that we can enforce.
But how does that enforce? Does that enforce starting as of now? And that washes off that $1,200? Or does that kick in and include that $1,200? Because it's a new ordinance. So that new ordinance, I guess it might,
Because it would be a new ordinance, you can only take it from that point forward.
Right,
Unless in the ordinance you allowed for prior things to be brought in there, which I did not see anything in there that did. So you can only take that from the point of time that it started.
I would read it that, and I think that would only be fair if we're starting a new ordinance with all that. I say we start from that point and move on. I mean, it's not right what he's done, but on the other hand, this is a new ordinance that we haven't had before. So I don't know how enforceable that is to go back for back personal taxes when we haven't had anything to use to bite into it.
I mean, in the old days, one of the things that happened was in the town report, you had the delinquent list and the unpaid list. And that tended at times to be the shaming implement that helped people make those things up. We don't do that anymore. Why would not, because we changed how we do some of that stuff anyway, but that, in the past, that was one of the things that helped move people along to clearing those things up too, because they didn't like seeing their name in there.
But we
Well,
also
they-
got a lot of taxes.
They are still there. Those outstanding taxes and delinquent taxes reports are always there. They're required by law. So
Okay.
I think it may be the lack of reading the town report that's about
That could be too.
shaming.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
The problem here, maybe, and I'm asking the Sues, there's no legal remedy for collection like there is real estate taxes, i.e. you cannot put a lien on, there's no enforcement provision under law to facilitate this collection, correct?
Correct.
So that's the real problem. So if you wanted to fix it without a business license or any kind of local legislation, it should be somewhere in state law, some level of enforceability, like property taxes. If it's a legal obligation, there ought to be a mechanism for collection. My opinion.
Any other discussion? Is there a motion?
All right, a motion to accept the the renewing of the liquor license for Fisherman's Net Catch based on Wayne getting the report in and having him compliant.
Second?
A second, you may want to have a discussion with this gentleman to say that, next year, if he doesn't pay these taxes, he could be in jeopardy. Make it clear to him then. And I agree, you can't pass a law now and then go backwards on the law, ex post facto, you can't do that. So we've eaten the 1,200, I'm pretty sure. But going forward, you may want to tip him off that you pay your taxes or you don't get your license.
Right,
Second,
I agree.
I don't.
Other
I
discussion?
feel that it wouldn't be an issue. He needs to pay it. Now we're just going to forgive it. No one else got to forgive it.
Well, Lonnie's right though. It is a slap in the face. It really is to everybody else. But that's one of the things that we've been dealing with is we have no bite. This actually gives us that bite, but it's still a slap in the face to the town. It really is.
Well, I would never, I guess, suggest, illegality or anything like that, but time is money, and a delay on the liquor license, we want to know why you're not paying your personal property taxes. But of course, in a pandemic, that may not be the thing to do, but I'm very disappointed with it. And I mean, you just don't see this. You just don't see this. So, even if you couldn't ultimately deny the liquor license, you want to ask him why he's doing this.
When it
So
comes
what,
down
so
to
what
it,
if I did withdraw my motion?
heads up. Don't give him heads up. Let him figure it out himself. He doesn't give us any gratitude to it. So that's my only point.
So what if I do withdraw the motion then? And he asks why? What happens then? Do you know what I mean?
You can't withdraw the motion because it's a motion that's been seconded, so you no longer own the motion.
Well, Marshall can
Well,
withdraw
you have
his.
No, he can't. Once the motion is made and seconded, it belongs to the floor. It no longer belongs to the person that made the motion. It now belongs to the floor. The only thing that could happen is you could vote no on the article, and therefore you could vote no on that, and that would stop it at this point. But you cannot withdraw a motion that's already been made and seconded.
And
Sorry.
we can open it back up for another discussion then. Right.
But really, when it comes down to it, just go with the motion, go with the whole piece, except don't give Mr. Coppersmith the heads up that something's going to happen to him next year. Because if he isn't involved enough then he has he's only getting what it should be coming to him. It's true. You don't pay your taxes for
No.
whatever reason, and now you get out of it. All right, you're gonna get out of it. You got lucky, but we shouldn't take our time and give him a heads up.
That's $100 a year. That's nothing for what I mean, I saw what he did this past weekend, the last couple of weekends. That place has been packed down there, you know? So the driveway's been
And
packed.
I'm
and
not
the
down in it.
rest-
And I'm not down in that piece either. I'm happy he's doing great.
Yeah.
On the same token, if you don't like why your taxes and how your taxes, are accumulated, if you have an issue of about $100 every year, that's fine. Well, come up to us and talk to us and give us, the gratitude and respect that we as the town deserve. Don't keep giving Sue the cold shoulder and not even calling her back. But at the end of the day, I'm still
Yeah.
voting
Nope, I agree.
for it because I want it on.
I agree. I'm voting for it as well.
I'm a yes.
So we have a motion. It's been seconded. All those in favor? Sam, you said yes. Lonnie, you said yes.
Aye.
Marshall? Yes. Motion is carried.
Yes.
Next item.
There are other good reasons for that.
Next item is consideration. Next item is consideration renewing a liquor license for the Beacon. Wayne, any issues on that one?
Yes,
Well-
conducted an inspection recently. Yes, can you hear me?
Yep,
Can you hear me now?
go ahead.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes. Conducted a inspection recently. There were 3 items that need to be addressed. One of those items will probably be submitting a written plan of correction so that over time they can correct an issue that's there. The other 2 is relating to the grease hood cleaning that's required semi-annually. And again, the fire alarm system inspection, testing and maintenance and report submission. Other than that, they were in good shape.
What's the first issue, Wayne?
The first one was the grease hood cleaning semi-annually. They're required to have their grease hood cleaned so that help not prevent a fire. You might have been referring to the one
I'm
with the
sorry,
written
you went-
plan of correction, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, the
What is
written
that one,
plan of
Wayne?
correction. They
You
have
you
a
mentioned there was
storage
one that-
room. They have a storage room that's part of another business area in the shopping center. And the firewalls in there need to be taken care of to separate the storage area from any business that would be next door, that would have this storage room within that space. And because of the situation right now with COVID, they're weighing how they want to run their business, whether they're moving forward the way they used to operate or make some changes in their operational plan. So they've have asked to send a written plan of correction to us for our approval on making those repairs. And the repairs he reported to me would be like $5,000. So
Didn't the issue of the firewall
that's
come
where
up
we
last?
stand.
Didn't the issue of the
did.
firewall come up?
Yes, it did. What happened between last year's and this year, there was a tenant that was planning on moving in and then didn't move in, and they were looking at sharing that cost. And of course, that didn't happen. So now the cost fully ends up on Beacon. So that's why it wasn't done in this past year.
And that doesn't fall on the landlord at all of the building?
I don't know what they have for a landlord tenant lease situation. We don't get involved with that. That's not part of our responsibility. Ultimately, the owner is responsible for the building.
Okay,
But not knowing what the agreement is, all I can report to you is it's not done, and the tenant's asking to submit to us a written plan of correction to do it over
Okay.
a time period.
thanks. So if they're doing it over time period, we can still do we renew this license based on that being done, or?
You do it based on fire department approving the corrective action.
Okay.
Which could be, the corrective action could say you have a 6-month period to do it.
Okay.
As long as they have approved the corrective action, it does not have to necessarily be completed. They just have to approve what is going to be done.
All right,
Correct.
so I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion then. Motion to renew the liquor license for the Beacon, but it's based on passing all the requirements from Wayne Fire Department.
Second that.
Within a period of time.
Well, I don't know how long it's gonna take, and that would be Wayne's responsibility, I guess, not mine,
Right.
saying that.
Well,
Because I don't know what's all involved. Yep,
I second your motion then.
Okay. So it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion is carried. Next item is discussion or is consideration of and recommendation of town warrant articles. So this is our fun and games here. Okay.
Ralph, do you want to take some of this out of order in order to?
We can.
Ralph?
yeah,
Why don't we take the abatements and the quit claim deeds? That'll get Kurt out of there. Once he lands back in his command seat there.
Can you give me a page number on this?
the abatements are on, wait a minute.
The abatements are on page 75.
Thank you.
Okay, Kurt, do you want to, or who wants to run through the abatements?
Sorry about that. You caught me moving around. So I have two
Okay, so the first
tax abatements that oops, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
So I have two tax abatements that came in by application near the deadline. The first one is the applicant is Robert Guy. This was a bank foreclosure property that was purchased by the applicant. The property has quite a substantial amount of damage. I've included some photos in the packet. You can see that the property was damaged so significantly that the entire inside of the house has been gutted out. So it seems like it's appropriate for us to make an adjustment on that property for this year, and then we will follow up over the next 2 years as it's restored back to livable condition. And the second abatement for Larry Willis is a pretty straightforward acreage adjustment. They had commissioned a survey, and the acreage was about 1.5 acres less than the acreage that we thought they had.
Can I ask, it says Casco on that one. Am I looking at the right one?
Yeah, the
Well,
owner lives in Casco. That's their mailing address.
Okay,
I have a difficulty on this one on the basis that he bought this foreclosure auction and he knew exactly what he was buying. So I'm not sure we should be condoning a tax decrease for him.
Yeah, it is true that being that it was a bank foreclosure, the purchase price that they paid is significantly less than market. However,
Exactly.
we were valuing the property as if it were in average conditions for its age, and it's clearly in poor condition. So it doesn't appear to me that the valuation that we have on the property is accurate.
In today's market.
Yeah, that's correct. They had to haul dumpsters of stuff out of that. It's basically peeled back to the studs at this point in order to get restored. To
Again, I
livable
stand
condition.
on what I said. He knew exactly what he was buying when he bought it under foreclosure. So I'm not comfortable giving him this tax abatement.
well, what about the land that it's on? How much land? Certain. Trying to find that.
Land is valued, I believe, around $57,000. It's around 4 acres of land. I'll have to peek at the card. Really, the question that we typically ask ourselves is, given the current condition of the property, what could we expect it to go for on the market, regardless of whether they got a deal or not? It's unfortunate that the previous owner let the property go in deterioration so badly that it needed to be ripped apart. But the valuation that we had on it appears to be high.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have any idea on when it's going to be back up to reasonable shape?
I would expect that, if he continues to work on it regularly, then it would be mostly back into livable condition by the next assessment, which will be the April 1, 2021 assessment.
But obviously at some point Scott would have to do his inspections. I'm assuming that we are going to be, the offset would be here that we're going to be collecting fees for, the inspection fees and those things. But at the point that work is done, does the valuation change at that point? And then it's prorated for what percentage of the year it's at that rate?
In the state of Maine, all property is valued as of April 1st. So whatever the situation is as of that date is the value for the entire next year. There's no proration allowed.
So it looks like he's working on it now. And
That's right. Most of the work has been demoing. I don't know if this is going to be his primary project. I think they pick these things up and kind of work on them as they go.
How about permits? Has he pulled any permits? Town profit that way and then be able to eat that other, but make it up in the permits?
Well, he'd have to be pulling permits from Scott for electrical and plumbing. If he stripped it down, to the what's showing in those pictures, it's all, essentially, it's new construction inside at that point. So wouldn't that fall under that, Scott?
Well, that's my next question was, what is the address? And I could probably tell you if he has a permit or not.
367 Webb's Mills Road.
Did you hear that, Scott?
Let me see. Yep, I heard it.
Oh, okay.
At this point, I don't recall issuing a renovation or demo permit at that property. I will check my records. If I do not have one, I will definitely be paying a visit to that address to inform the gentleman that a demo permit and or renovation permit is needed. Usually don't issue a stop work order, never really gets to that, but if he's gotten that far with it and I don't have one, yeah, I definitely should have one.
And
Well,
I
is it proper
typically
that-
advise these building owners to speak with the code officer to acquire their permits when I meet with them. Irregardless, that he's on my radar. You know, he'll be visited again, no matter what.
Is it permissible to issue the abatement conditioned upon him pulling the proper permits for demolition and rework? No?
I'm looking at, I'm looking at this now and I'm thinking, boy, he's done a lot of work on it. And it's gonna be what, another year you said? I'm sorry, Kurt, that you're gonna go back out again and reassess? So he's gonna have this thing built and changed and sold, remodeled, whatever, at that newer rate. But he's asking for that tax abatement.
What bothers me is that he knows how to get a or how to apply for a tax abatement, but he doesn't know how to apply for a permit.
Good point.
I mean, come on, we're gonna give the guy a break, but you're trying to pull one over on us. I mean, that to me is not cool. I could be looking at it totally wrong, but again, you know, if Scott doesn't have a permit and the guy's been, I mean, that's a flag.
I mean,
Well,
all I can say is memory-wise, I don't think he's pulled one. You know, I still would have to go back into the office and check his folder to make sure, but the address is not ringing a bell to me.
Okay. The other option.
I think you have a situation like the fisherman's catch. You have two different issues going on at the same time. You know, so I think if it was under bank ownership or the prior owner, I'm asking Kurt now, and they came in and sought an abatement based on condition, they would get it regardless of ownership, right?
Yeah, you know, the real germane issue is what's the value of the property and are we applying our assessment methodology correctly? If they have
Right.
side issues, we can't really make our decision on the taxation end contingent upon other issues that they may have.
So I think what you have to do is you would have to consider the abatement on space, and then you'd have to consider the enforcement of the permit or lack thereof separately.
And I'm totally cool with that. That is fair. But now it just raised the flag looking for an abatement. He was granted that. Now Scott will look into his permit. Didn't pull one. He probably did it awfully or did it wrong. So he should have to pay that price. But we'll find out and roll from there in my book.
Is there a motion on the Cunningham guy
Cunningham guy.
basement? Well, it's Robert C. Cunningham in care of Robert and Rita Guy. So it looks as though it's a corporate or business.
I'd like to make a motion to accept abatement for tax year 2019, ML number 010124, name Cunningham, old assessment 163.8, new assessment 75,700.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3. Motion is carried.
I take a no on that.
So, 4-1. Okay, next is the Wills abatement on the acreage. Is there a motion on that?
Motion to approve the abatement on Larry C. Wills 002-022D in the amount requested.
Second. Sorry. Second.
Discussion? Those in favor? Motion is carried. Okay, quick claim deeds. Sue, are you doing that or?
I believe Sukar was going to do that, but do you have them with you, Sue?
That's the Sue I was asking for. Sorry.
It's quick claim deeds next.
I have them in front of me. All right, which one do you want to do first?
I'll do the first one, which is Gwendolyn Acquisitions LLC.
All right, Gwendolyn Acquisitions LLC, motion to accept the quitclaim deed. The acquisitions recorded registries deeds, book 28886, page 320, book 31729, page 55, book 34141, page 14, book 29838, page 56, book 32517, page 110, book 35065, page 27, book 30940, page 152, book 33358, page 176, book 35913, page 198. And it's map 02 lot 024B.
Second that.
Discussion? All those in favor? Motion is carried.
All right, next one, motion to accept quitclaim deed of, I'm gonna do Timothy Davis, W. Davis, Ruby, Jean, map 30, lot 019, book 35064, page 334, book 35913, page 72.
Second.
Discussion? Those in favor?
All right, the
Motion
last
carried.
one is, all right, sorry, motion to accept quitclaim deed of Plumber Daniel R., map 46, lot 27B, book 29838, page 124, book 28887, page 34, book 33358, page 298, book 35913, page 112, book 30940, page 70, book 31729, page 136, book 34141, page 74, book 27989, page 158, book 32517, page 145, book 35064, page 328.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Motion is carried.
We do Tassel Top?
Yeah. Consideration of annual fees for Tassel Top. Joe?
Yes. This would be, of course, under normal circumstances, the annual fee year after year. I'll go over some of the changes. We're definitely from the state, since this is Land Water Conservation Fund that is leasing it to us. we do need to make the Raymond resident rate lower to encourage Raymond residents to um, use this park because it is in their town. So we've offered two rates, the resident rate and then a non-resident rate. And I try to align these up with the state park fees that each park can kind of differ, but I think if you look at Sebago Lake State Park, these are the daily rates that kind of align. So residents would be for a day pass, $2 for children, and adults $5, and then senior citizens $2. And then non-resident fees would be for children $3, adults $6, and senior citizens $3. So those would be the changes in the day rate. I think last year it was just one rate for residents or non-residents. The other change would be the season pass rates. When compiling data, out of 104 season passes, only about 13% were Raymond residents, and I kind of found that alarming. That we should entice Raymond residents to use this beautiful park. So for a season pass rate, we'd offer for Raymond residents $75, and then the non-resident would be $100. And also to change some of the guidelines in that. So you could buy a season pass last year, and then if you had more than 4 people per vehicle, you're charged the additional day pass rate. So even if you're a season pass holder, a lot of families are more than 4 people. I do suggest that we increase that to at least 7 per vehicle. I know the main park pass, which is good for anywhere, is kind of, I think, would be comparable to this, and they have 17 per vehicle, which I think in my mind is a little probably excessive, but they probably have a bunch of buses going places. So I would suggest 7 per vehicle. And then the last change would be the cabin rental. This was actually proposed in the notes from last year, and with this minimum wage increase, and I think the deal that you get for the cabin rental, a $50 increase is pretty minimal. So it'd be $10.50 per week. So those are all the changes.
Joe, what's a child?
Ages 2 to 11. So that's, I believe I kind of align that with the state of Maine park children age.
What were the rates last year?
I believe
What
it
did
was,
you say?
I think it was 5 across the board, Ralph.
5 even for 2, 3-year-olds?
No, I think they were 3.
I believe there was a discount. I think it was about $3 or $4.
So what is the cabin rate? What did you say the cabin?
$10.50.
$10.50, and it's $1,000 right now per week.
Okay.
What do you all think about the resident seasons pass? I don't know, non-resident 100, seasons pass for a resident 75. It's only, I almost feel like should be a bigger difference. I'm not saying that 75 is too much. I'm not saying that 100 is too much or too less. I'm just saying that, I live here. I only pay 75 compared to 100. It just seems like I should pay a little less. Is everybody seeing that the way I am, or anyone seeing that the way I am? Or am I too far out?
It seemed to be that there
Lonnie,
was.
he needs to understand the background of it too, Lonnie, because the state gave it to us to use with the basis that we give the residents cheaper. So yeah, so I see what you're saying though, but
I think it should be less than that though. It should be.
Wasn't there a percentage, you can only go a certain percentage less for the residents than non-residents, Joe?
I didn't see that in the recommendation that Doug Beck gave us. I didn't see that.
That
This
is
was
correct,
kind of
Ralph.
based off of, did you see that, Don?
Yeah, Ralph's correct on that. I don't have the chapter and verse, but you can't have it be a percentage, difference that is usurious or too great. There's some latitude there, and I couldn't tell you what the difference is. It probably is enough so it would satisfy Lonnie's concern, but it can't be something that would be, unfair, I guess, my word, not theirs, because it is obviously purchased with state funds, but there ought to be an advantage, as Lonnie indicates, for local residents, and there can be a differential. It just can't be too great or usurious. And it's all prescribed, I believe.
And I'll make a comparison. I've kind of based these rates off of Dundee Park and Wyndham as well. And it's a little bit smaller of a park as far as a beach, but their non-resident fee is $75 for the season pass and then $60 for the residents. So that's a $15 difference.
But that's a locally administered park, correct?
Yes, but it's similar
this is a state
setup
facility that we're under lease
it's
with the town.
LWCF funded.
Okay.
I don't know. Marshall, you took over my spot on Tassel Top. I just thought the fees were higher for kids. Because you got a lot of 5, 6, 7, 8-year-olds.
I remember a lot of discussion on fees, and let me take the one I remember first. The non-resident annual. There was an awful lot of discussion in those board meetings about not the $100 mark. So that's why it was $99. It was something matched about 100. Okay. So I think if you look, Joe, last year was 99, either 99 or 95 or something like that.
$95, yes. And the day pass rates for last year were children were $2, and that was age 2 to 10. Adults,
Right.
$60.
Okay.
And senior citizens, $3. So
Okay.
you're right, Marshall. It was under 100.
Yeah, I'm okay with that, but I'd like to see you drop the non-resident rate. 99.99.
Do
Really?
you have any
You remember, Teresa, we had that go around 3 or 4 times. Keep that on around.
We did. We so did. But on the other hand, that was last year and that was the year before. So I know that we have talked about that. So this would kind of bring us up to par. Like every year things increase. So that $100 to me, it's only $1 more from last year.
Well, what percentage of season passes were residents last year?
Did you say 13 or 23?
About 80%.
No, that were Raymond residents.
Oh, Raymond residents was 13%.
Yeah, as
So,
well.
I mean, if you dropped it a little, from a total gross standpoint, you're not affecting the bottom line that much.
No, I think we'll
All
increase.
is offering more of an incentive to try and bring it in there. So if you went 70 instead of 75, that I think that stays kind of within a reasonableness marker to say that you haven't gone way outside the whack of what the state would look at there. But you may pick up another couple percentage, but from a total dollar standpoint, it's probably not going to affect you much greatly one way, that much anyway.
No, and the hope is that we haven't.
It's more a visionary thing, that especially where you can look at it and with everything else that's going on, if you can give them a little bit of a bargain this year, that's not a bad thing either.
And this might, just to put it out there that this might change depending on the guidelines for this year on opening.
Yeah, I mean, if you're down to you can only be open 50% of the time that you normally would have been, then you probably have to do some sort of an adjustment on there from a reasonableness standpoint, I would think. But that, I mean, you can have that, and then we just make an accommodation because of the amount of time it's going to be open.
Correct, and the amount of people we can allow in before closing the gate.
Remember how many annual passes we sold last year, Joe?
104 total.
104. So 7,500 of that came from out of town, supposedly. And I think a lot of out of town are, in fact, out of state. So
correct, yeah.
Okay.
So what am I hearing, that the day rates are fine, but we want it on the seasons pass, you want to go 70 and 100?
70 and 95.
79, yeah.
If we go 95, we're coming down.
Just for this year, because it's looming.
You know what? Well, yeah, and we can look at it again next year. The other thing is, if we keep in mind this, a lot of businesses and state and stuff like that is giving discounts to people because of everything that's going on. So maybe this might be the year that Raymond, until we figure out what's going on, gives a bit of a cut to Tassel Top, to its residents and to people.
You know, Trish, I'd rather handle that with Joe giving passes
Okay.
rather than cutting the fee.
I agree with that.
But what happens is if you adjust the fee downward too much this year, it's harder to get it back to where you
Yeah.
want that next year.
Right.
If you do that and say, listen, because of certain circumstance, we're going to give a gate discount this year. We're gonna, because we're not gonna be able to be open as long and whatnot. That's a one-time thing. Whereas if you've established a fee schedule that's artificially low, it's harder to get it back to where you want it that next year.
Yes, yes. But I think that 99 to 100 though is on a normal good year is where I would be pushing for it, because you're just moving with the times, moving up. And it's only $1.
It was, sorry, Teresa, it was
Five.
95 last year.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, you make Marshall right then. I can't even slap him in this meeting. I'm fine on it either way.
But, okay. And I mean, the minimum wage did increase from last year too. So it's up to $12 an
I
hour.
mean, the cabin rental, I don't have as big a heartburn with, because that's,
No.
that's on par with
Hey,
what's
Rick.
going on in the world, so.
So what, 70 and 99?
I got 70 and 95 written down. Is that?
What, Marshall?
I'll move. The children's rates as written, the cabin rates as written, and the season pass 70 for residents, 95 for non-resident for this year.
Second.
Discussion?
Yes, just for discussion purposes, would you, knowing that we want to move towards like a 99 or 100 for next year, but this year we're kind of giving a break for the non-resident season pass, would you put it at what we want it to be, but put some type of comment in there that this year, because of the shortened year, it is going to be the 95? So you have established already the 100 or the 99, but you are only going to charge 95 this year because of it. So we're not kind of going backwards like you're mentioning, Ralph?
Talking like COVID does.
I mean, what you could say, I mean.
I think that would be a little bit difficult from an accounting standpoint. What do you think, Joe?
I would advise this, because I would set this rate right now for annual fee, but I think once we get more guidelines from the state of how we can open, what our max that we can allow into the park, we might not even be able to allow season pass just because of the amount of people we would have to turn away. So I'd advise passing this with those recommendations, and knowing that this could change with the reopening plan of Tassel Top based on the guidelines by the state.
So let's take out then the annual fees for this year, and then just leave in the day passes and the cabin.
I would leave them in only because it's establishing somewhat of a baseline to get you into the next year.
Right.
Whether you come to the conclusion ultimately that you can't offer season passes this year because of occupancy requirements and whatnot, that's fine. But you've established where it is, and so you're not trying to reestablish something brand new going forward. All you're saying is, we've got this in the fee schedule, but this year, because of COVID, we're not going to be able to issue any seasons passes. That's fine. But you've got it, you've set a marker there anyway.
Yes, I think that's a good plan.
So Joe, Do we have you
79.
totally confused right now?
I don't think so.
Sure.
Maybe, I don't know.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if there are other guidelines that come down from the state that Joe gets subsequent to this, and the fees need to change for some reason, he would need to come back with a new proposal for this fee schedule, correct?
He would, or we, but that can be done as an emergency thing if it's, I mean,
Yes.
because we're in somewhat uncharted territory here as far as what's going to happen on reopenings and things like that. We're good, if we have to be flexible, we'll be flexible. I mean, it's just that simple.
Could the motion be amended to add that flexibility?
I don't think
As a
there's a need
suggestion.
to.
It would still require coming back. Coming back is going to be, we can, there's a number of ways you can do that. I mean, we can do one-time adjustments to ski, things like that. So you're better off to have it clean this way. And then if we have to go back and do something, we can do that. And there's a number of different ways that we could do that. So that doesn't concern me as much, but this is setting the, this is setting the stage for going forward. If if everything blows up on our face, then we go back and we retrench and we figure out what we have to do. But we can grant some flexibility there outside of this motion.
Okay.
Right, so do we need a second on Marshall's motion? I think Lonnie did, just for discussion. didn't he? Or did-
Lonnie seconded it. Yeah. So we have the motion that's on the table. Everybody's aware of where we are in the motion. All those in favor? Opposed? None? Motion is carried.
Joe, how do we stand on cabin rentals right now?
Pretty good. As far as reading the lodging requirements, I think the cabin rentals don't fall under a lot of the other requirements. I do have a couple, I think as we get more information, I'll have a couple maybe suggestions like bringing their own bedding and hiring maybe a cleaning company in between transition of rentals. But I'm not there yet. The only thing would be the out-of-state 2-week quarantine. And we have 4 out of the, I believe, 13 rentals that fall under that. One of them has a 2-week rental. So from what my understanding is, they can allow, we can allow that rental to stand because it's 14 days. There's 3 others that I'm waiting to hear if they're going to change the out-of-state
Right.
14-day requirement or different precautions going forward.
Is that 2-week rental, is that the one that's late September?
Correct. It's the last one.
Thank you, Joe, for your efforts.
Yep. Thank you, Marshall.
As long as we're discussing fees, why don't we knock off the annual update of fee schedule, and that way we're done with fees. Then we can get back into the regular agenda. So who wants to just, well, I guess the question is, were there any, Sue, are there any changes to fees, or are those just carrying those forward?
There were a few, but I thought we were going to do that later, so I hadn't pulled it up. I'm sorry. Let me pull that up.
Because ultimately, when the intent would be going forward into next year, we'll have the tassel top fees in the overall fee schedule so that one fee document.
And I did incorporate them into this document at the end. It's the last thing. There's only been, I think, possibly 1 year, but maybe it was 2 that that they were removed. There weren't a lot of changes. I did add the business license on page, where are we? Page 3.
Mhm.
And we had put in $50 for a 5-year license. And down on page 5, under our office charges, these came from Kayla because she's been kind of keeping track of the copies that she's doing on, especially on the plotter, because the paper's more expensive, the the ink is more expensive. But she determined that black and white and color really, it doesn't make much difference. It's still, the ink's expensive. So she's made a few additions and changes to this, some to clarify, because people would ask, what about a 36 by 24? And we didn't have that explicitly on here for individual copies, and others just because, for one, we don't laminate things, and some of the costs she found were a little bit much for maps. I am proposing a change to the notary fees. Right now, we don't charge our residents at all. And I definitely would like to keep that. They get very little in the town office for free, and I can't tell you the smiles I get when I tell them that all it costs is a smile, as long as they're a resident. But we have, this past year, I've had several petition efforts come in, and they might have 20 different sheets that they want notarized. That takes some time. And they, on the whole, major petition efforts will hire notaries to sit and do that. So I would just assume that the town got some money out of this and do it $1 per page. One, to kind of discourage doing it. It does take quite a bit of time to go through and do that. And I think the other is on page 7 at the bottom. I've put in tassel top, so I'll need to make a change for the season passes. Oh, I had season pass resident 75. So I may have put that in incorrectly. Is that what you just motioned?
No, we just motioned 70 and
70.
95 on the non-resident.
Yeah. So I'll need to change that to 70 and 95 based on your prior motion before I print it for your signature.
Let me go back to Don for a second. You mentioned that the fee is spread between resident and non-resident as a percentage. Can you just check and make sure we're in compliance with that?
I can check and make sure of that. I was trying to interject, but Rolf kind of touched on it, so I didn't. My sense would be, my expectation would be that we're fine. We're within the range.
Okay.
They're talking about something like double or triple, making it usurious and unfair. I don't think this fits into that, but I'll check it.
Other questions on the fee schedule?
I'll move the fee schedule as presented.
No, as corrected.
As corrected, sorry.
Is there a second?
Yes, second.
Thank you,
Discussion?
Lon.
All those in favor? Motion is carried. Okay, let's go back to
Mr. Chair,
yeah.
could I ask a 2-minute break time right now?
All right.
Where are you going next, Rolf?
We're going to the town meeting warrant, which starts on page 62.
Thank you, sir. Trying to do this with a computer and a pad. It's not working well.
I like this setup. I have 3 screens all around me. It's just dialing.
Yeah, I want to know what Bruce is using for his camera, because he's nicely out of focus.
Mr. Tupper, he's been working hard the whole time.
It is, yeah, reading, little light reading. Just, I don't know, it's just the camera Unitech, cheapy. Out of focus, looks good on my end.
Well, it's either the camera or you, so
Well,
be just
either or. Maybe I got the light right here shining on me, so.
Uh-oh, Sam, are you gonna need help getting back in your chair?
Okay,
Yeah.
so Sue is
Thank-
back. All right, let us begin. Let's see, so Article 1, which is actually, okay, so Article 1, we don't need a motion on. Article 2, we don't need a motion on. Article 3, referendum question A, to see if the town will vote to set a date for the first half of taxes due October 31st, 2020, and the second half of taxes due on April 30th, 2021. Set the interest rate for unpaid balances and for abated taxes at 9% for the fiscal year. Authorize the tax collector or treasurer to accept prepayments of taxes not yet committed pursuant to 36 MRSA subsection 506 with no interest, and to authorize the select board on the behalf of the town to sell and dispose of any property acquired by the town for non-payment of taxes pursuant to the policies adopted by the select board as may be amended from time to time. The policy to remain consistent with the state statutes and laws. In all cases, conveyance is to be made by municipal quitclaim deed. Is there a motion?
Motion to recommend Article 3?
Second.
Okay, so it was moved by Teresa, seconded by Marshall. Discussion? All those in favor? Motion is carried.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
the Budget Finance Committee has asked for the last several years that I include in the recommendation the vote, the number vote, and not just the fact that they recommend. I've seen a few ballots from other towns, and they tend to do the same thing. Would you like me to do that with the select board's vote?
I don't think that that's necessary because, in my opinion, when an article passes, it has the endorsement from the select board.
I agree. Thank you.
Unless I want to be overruled by people on the board.
Nope.
No.
Okay.
I can see Sue's point, but I can see yours as well, and you're my leader, so I'm going with you.
Okay,
Fuck up.
Article 4, referendum question B, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $1,729,608 for general government services, administration, employee compensation, training, insurance, and employee benefits, assessing, code enforcement, parks and recreation, technology, and general assistance. The breakdown is administration, $522,945, employee compensation and training, $48,000, insurance and employee benefits, $706,937, assessing, $59,733, code enforcement, $117,514, parks and recreation, $94,314, technology, $172,165, general assistance, $8,000.
Motion to carry.
Second.
Who seconded?
Lonnie.
Lonnie? Discussion?
Is this different from last year?
Is this what?
Is this question different from last year?
Yeah, what we did is last year we had each of those items was broken down. So
Yeah.
in order to be able to go and have the actual voting the ballot be of a reasonable size and whatnot, we lumped items that were logical to lump together into one article.
So what is this? What if somebody then has a problem, say, Parks and Recreation, someone has a problem with the employee compensation and training, so they vote no on that because there's one issue in there. I see what you're saying is trying to condense them, but my concern is if someone has an issue regarding one of those, are they going to vote the whole thing down then?
Yes, if you had a negative vote, you'd have a negative on the whole article.
Yeah, and that's negative on all of us.
But the option would be to have, 50 or 60 articles. You're already going to be I think you're already going to, with this particular warrant and all the referendum questions and everything else people are going to have to vote on, you're going to have voter fatigue.
Okay. No, I get what you're saying. I get that. It's just, that's a big concern of mine. But you know what? We'll see what happens. It's a weird year.
Other towns do it, and unless there's something particularly burningly controversial, it should, one can never predict, but the majority should still prevail. It should be, it's a numerical majority, so you'd have to have a pretty big groundswell of people who had a bad feeling about one component or other of that.
So the other question is, the numbers that we're looking at here are the numbers that are in the books that were given to us, correct? Nothing's been
correct.
changed.
That is correct.
I have a question on Parks and Rec, and I understand what's happening here. But perhaps if Kathy Ricker is still around, did she just disappear on me? You gotta turn your volume up, hon. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, we're carrying the expense of 74,000 for Parks and Rec, which I understand, but when I looked at the income sheet, I didn't see any offsetting income from Tasseltop. Are we still carrying that as an enterprise zone?
Yes, we're carrying it as an enterprise fund, and we made it its own warrant article, and we've got the Tasseltop revenue and the Tasseltop expenses. And what you see in that article that you guys are looking at right now is just the rec department, which includes the appropriations for the Rattlers and the baseball and.
No, I'm good with all that, but the public is going to see a jump from 19,000 to 74,000, and there's got to be, or 94,000.
Yeah.
And that is for the rec director and the expenses related to the rec director's office.
Okay, thank you.
Should we have the Parks and Rec, because it is new this year and it is going to be confusing? Should we have that one pulled out and put maybe with its own explanation, because it is a whole new thing?
Mr. Chairman?
That's the only new one we have this year, and people aren't going to understand that, and it is a big jump.
One thing that, when I ran all these articles through with them, the MMA lawyers, to make sure I wasn't combining things inappropriately, they suggested that since we'll be creating the town report book that goes with this, that we can have as much explanation in there as we want. So you can separate that out if that's what the board decides to do. But we also will, this isn't the only place that they will see any kind of explanation. This is what's in the warrant. What's actually going on the ballot is simply the question and whether you recommend it or the Budget Finance Committee recommends it. They won't see the breakdown on the ballot itself. They'll have to go to the town warrant book to see that.
I mean, everything else has been the same the last couple of years. That one worries me.
I'm okay with it.
You know, I mean, it comes down to what are the, you know, you have one or two things that happens. Either they have wanted to find out what's going on around, because we've discussed it in multiple settings and in multiple places. It'll be discussed in the book that they get. And so you have one or two things that happens. You know, they look at it and say, you know, yes, we want to do that. Or if they say no to that, then that department is gone entirely.
I know.
You have to understand, if they say no, it's gone entirely.
Okay, I get what you're saying. Nope, I get what you're saying. I'm good. So we've already moved it, and yep, and seconded it.
It's been moved and seconded. Further discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor? Motion's carried. Article 3, see if the town will vote to referendum question C. Excuse me. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $1,264,454 for public works. And that consists of public works at $847,113, town buildings at $36,350, solid waste at $337,346, and cemeteries at $43,645.
Motion to move Article 5.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Here's where the rubber meets the road on it. We're taking an increase in public works of $70,000. And I think that in looking at what Sue Look sent out today on the anticipated mill rate, I think 14.18 is a little high, and I think that there are 4 departments that I think we need to take another look at, and I think 70,000 a little bit high is, and I'm sorry Nathan isn't here, but
I can.
okay.
Then he's
Defend it.
available.
No, you can defend it, can't you?
I can, but he says he's available if you want him. But go ahead.
Is there something that that's in this budget that he can really live without this year?
Well, my recommendation, and Kathy Ricker and I have talked about this at some length, would be if you were going to try to flatten the town budget out, which I'm not sure is going to accomplish the end of flattening the tax rate out because of the differential between town, school, county, so forth, and you all know that. But we would recommend that.
Let me stop you there. I'm not interested in flatlining that. I'd like to see the mill rate under 14 if it can possibly be done.
Right. What I'm saying is that I would take it from capital. I'd take a 1-year hiatus from capital, take a reduction in capital in several departments, if that's what you wanted to do. And that way, we could get back on track next year and we wouldn't compromise any, what I would call, plus potentially essential programs and services. I think we want to still maintain our workforce, our ability to respond to the needs of the public in a pandemic. And so, I'd be concerned if we were going to be cutting staffing and other things like that.
I'm not suggesting that. What do we got? What are we putting in capital?
But what we had suggested we had sent out a list today. Did you get the list? Or did I send it to Rolf, I think? Did we send it out to the group, Rolf?
On which?
The capital list of capital cuts.
They haven't paid attention to me yet, but they will in a second, hopefully.
What?
There wasn't any.
We were talking about 75,000 from the paving reserve. We were talking 75,000 from the public safety equipment reserve. We were talking about 50,000 from the revaluation for a one year cut from 100 down to 50. Let me see. Help me out
Wait a
here.
minute, so you're saying you did these cuts already and we're still not underneath the 14?
No.
We haven't put any of those cuts in.
No, we haven't put any of those cuts in.
This was kind of discussion. If push came to shove, we had to do something. Where are areas that you could look at? The one that scares me the most is, and we've been down this road time and time again, is the likely suspect is paving. And this is why we had to borrow $10 million a few years ago, is because we kept putting it off. And we said, that's a sacrificial lamb. We can do without $75,000 this year. And next thing, we've got roads that are all falling apart. We had to go out.
But as a practical, I wish Nathan were here. As a practical matter.
I have Nathan on the phone.
Yeah, as a practical matter, I don't think it's as big an issue as it would seem, because, sometimes he's not able to even get all the work done that he has funds available for. But I mean, we can debate that one. There are other places you could go to. And
the paving too.
He may be able to tell you other areas within his department that he thinks are, available. But I'm just worried about the notion of trying to, for whatever reason, the town budget is very tightly controlled, is very small.
You can't hear them? Okay.
And I'm worried about the idea of flattening out the town budget to try to mitigate a school increase, is what it looks like to me.
Yeah, they're talking about, oops,
Because, at the end of the day, Marshall, we also,
I need to mute me.
the other offset we have is on the revenue side is to take some surplus and do it there. If the end game is really just trying to affect that, but I can tell you right now, it's going to be hard staying under 14 because of the school.
Well,
the school's pushing us. So we're talking. We're talking here. If we did basically everything in there without then we're taking some more, using some of the surplus, which right now that's not factored in here. So that's when we get to setting mill rate, then that that's
Right,
kind
put
of
you
a
up here so you
discussion
can
we'll
see.
have there, but, if we're looking at that, the net effect comes down to about 3 or 4 cents on the mill rate if we were to take, $40,000 or $50,000 out of there. That's not where the big hit is.
Well, let me just say this. When I looked at these numbers, to get it to under 14, we need to find 206,000. I think we just found it in taking the capitals out. For 1 year, we take them out.
But you're not, so what you're doing is you're giving it all to the school and saying, we're gonna sacrifice the town for the school. That's where, that's the fundamental issue you got there. I would rather say people vote down the school budget and have them come back with a reasonable number that's $300,000 less there. And you've done the same thing and we take care of the people in the town.
With all due respect, I think that's wishful thinking.
Oh, I know it's wishful thinking, but I mean, that's, at the end of the day, are we moving things out that are going to cost us more to fix 2 years down the road than if we keep the paving where it is? And, on the capital side, we've, some of that's was reduced over the years because we got the trucks and all that stuff. So, I mean, you could reserve some, you could, out of the CIP, we could whittle some down there, but from operational expense, I think we have to be a little careful what we do there too.
I'd say leave it. That's just my 2 cents.
My arm is twisted pretty bad here. I don't know. I just.
I gotta say, Nathan's budget is usually pretty tight.
I understand all that, and I sympathize with all that, but I'm thinking about old Mrs. Brown, about 4 houses down, that's got nothing to eat but cat food.
I know, I get that, but again, it's kind of like when we're doing the school budget and you've got the state mandates for the IEPs and special ed and stuff like that. So much money has to go into that. We have this small little percent. I think our school budget, if I'm not mistaken, is like 85% of the town taxes. And we've got only like 17%, if that. So
I have pulled up the whole list. If you'd like me to read the whole list that we sent out, do you want me to do that?
I like his budget.
No, I'm not talking about public works. I'm talking about the whole list of things we sent out today.
No, I wouldn't do those at this point.
Okay. All right.
Did you send it out to the select board?
No, he said it was sent to me as if push comes to shove, where are some items that may be, that may have some pre-board, but a lot of it is starting to get, we've already, we did one, which was we plowed some money back into the excise tax because that's something, we moved, the other was to use surplus to reduce. Well, that's a discussion we'll have when we go to set the mill rate anyway. What we have in the warrant articles is to allow us up to $300,000 for surplus to be able to use to reduce the tax rate.
What's in the surplus now, Kathy?
Can't hear.
Muted.
I guess not.
I have Nathan on the phone, and the way this phone thing is set up, he can't converse with this. He could say things, but he has no idea what you've said. And I was trying to catch him.
Why doesn't he just follow the link on his phone and be zoomed in?
Because he doesn't have the password to do that.
He's trying to. I gave him the password for this one, but it's different from his phone one. Is
Yeah.
what happens.
Yeah, he needs the password for the phone, and he doesn't have
If
it.
he's got the link on there, it goes by the password.
No, it doesn't if you're coming by phone. So do you want to make a statement, Nathan? And okay, he's going to call Kayla and get the password.
All right. What, am I unmuted yet?
Yes, you're unmuted.
All right. What was the question?
What's the surplus?
Surplus.
estimated 256, and then Rolf and I went back and forth today. And I thought that we might probably add 50, so I think up to 300. This is just the amount that we can use. This isn't the base that we have to keep.
I understand.
So I was thinking about 300, and that's what the warrant article goes up to, and that's what you can look at once Kurt's done with the assessing, and we know what our homestead is, and we know we'll have a better idea of what state revenue sharing is going to be by that time also.
Okay. Has a motion been made?
I thought we were waiting for Nathan, or do you want to move on?
Motion was made and seconded, so.
Yes.
Is there further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Article referendum question D, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $956,870 for public safety. That is $921,955 for fire rescue department and $34,915 for animal control.
Motion to recommend Article 6.
Second.
Same question here. What can you live without, Bruce?
I'm muted now. You can hear me.
I can hear you.
Good, awesome. So it works. Again, we discussed a couple things today, and I said that one of the things that we could do and still achieve our goals would be to defer that CIP. Our capital is 75,000 automatic every year roll into our ambulance replacement fund. It defers it, which means we'd have to come up with it again in future years. But we don't have an ambulance, I don't believe, due for another 2 to 3, if I'm not mistaken.
I thought there was one next year.
Is there one next year? I'm at a 2,000. Maybe I get Kathy if she's still online to chime in. Kathy Goslin. I thought it was 2 years out minimally.
It's 2 years out, but we could push it to a third year if we had to give the 75,000 back or use it elsewhere.
I think you have the same argument going there that you used in the public works. You know, we've come up with a program to keep things on track, capital reserve wise and replacement wise. And so it's pay me now, pay me later.
I would agree, Don. That's really what we're doing.
I also think how much is 75,000 taking that off going to help?
Yeah.
Your other arm's going to be hurting there, Marshall, in a second.
It already is.
I've got to leave for a second, try to reconfigure here. I've lost the battery on my laptop. Hopefully I can replicate what you did, Sue. I'll be back.
Nathan, how are you?
I'm doing good. Finally, got on the meeting. Finally, a little technical difficulties there.
You're fine now. We've moved on, Nathan.
We already passed. But
have a good night, Nathan.
Did I survive? Did I survive?
You did. You did.
Yeah, but you,
right.
we traded. You now have a moped.
You now have a moped to drive around.
It'd be all right. You can hang a plow on one of
I
them.
was gonna say it looked funny plowing with that, but
As long as it can hold his coffee.
It'll be fine. You want me to stay with the meeting, or are you all set with me at this point?
No, I think we're set there because I don't think there's anything else that's, no, the building was there, that was there. Everything that you had was,
What about the CIP for him?
well, you know, unless, I mean, it would be if in that Article 15 is the CIP article.
It would just be what we had discussed, which was just reducing 75,000.
Yeah, that's already been reduced, right? That's done last year.
Say what?
No, the CIP stayed the same on public works or paving and equipment, and the 70,000 that was being discussed about the operating budget is just to cover what we've done for the mechanic and increases to the plowing stuff.
Okay.
So do we want to take 15 out of sequence? That's why he's there.
Out of what?
Sequence.
See what?
Sequence, like out of order.
Oh. Well, we can't. We're in the middle of Article 6 already.
You're naughty. In the middle of it? Well,
Yeah, we
I
gotta
know, but
finish-
take that after we do this one, and so Nathan's still on the phone.
I can hang out for a bit. I got, I don't know, 20% left on my phone.
We can burn that up.
All right, so we have what? We have that motion and we have it second it?
Been moved and seconded at the 9:56, 8:70.
Okay.
Other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. See if the town will vote to authorize the select board to dispose of town-owned property at a value not to exceed $35,000.
Motion to recommend Article 7.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? None? Motion carried. Article 8, question F, to see if the town will vote to authorize the select board to appropriate from undesignated funds balance surplus to meet the unanticipated needs of the community that occurred during the fiscal year, and or to adjust the tax rate at as the select board deems advisable in an amount not to exceed $75,000.
Motion to recommend Article 8.
Second.
Discussion? And that's proved to be a benefit to us this year in things that have happened and will be happening in regards to the virus and whatnot. So in the past, people have asked, does that ever get used? And the answer is yes.
Yes. Not often, but yes.
Not very often, but it's one of those you never know. So additional discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. To see if the vote is, Article 9, referendum question G, to see if the town will vote to authorize the select board to transfer funds between appropriation accounts as long as the grand total of all appropriations is not exceeded. Any such transfers to be approved only at a properly called public meeting of the select board.
Motion to recommend Article 9.
Second.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? None. Motion is carried. Article 10, referendum question H, to see if the town will vote to authorize the select board to allow town staff to make applications for and execute any documents related to grants, accept or reject grants, donations, and or gifts of money to the town of Raymond, and authorize the expenditure of monies awarded, donated, and or gifted for the purpose specified in the grants, donation, and or gifts.
Motion to recommend Article 10.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Motion is carried. Article 11, referendum question I, to see if the town will vote to authorize the select board to appropriate from undesignated fund balances to reduce the property tax commitment as the select board deems advisable in an amount not to exceed $300,000.
Motion to recommend Article 11.
Second.
Discussion?
This, if I can, this is not in the document that you sent out earlier today, Sue. Look. The document of.
I have no idea because I forwarded that from Kathy.
Kathy, you're up.
Which way? The 300,000 is what we're saying that we want authorized to us to be able to use to be able to reduce tax commitment.
I understand that, but there was a document sent out today, Town of Raymond estimated mill rate. That
Oh.
300,000 does not appear in that document. Is that correct?
Right,
That's
that is
correct.
correct.
Thank you.
So that's what I'm saying, when we get to actually committing that, that's when we would exercise that and say, okay, we want to take X amount to be able to get that down to
Yep.
that year.
Okay, thank you.
All those in favor? Opposed? None? Motion's carried. Article 12, referendum question J, to see if the town will vote to appropriate $283,164 from the tax increment of the pipeline Route 302 TIF for fiscal year 2020, 2021 projects proposed in the tax increment financing district development program.
Motion to recommend Article 12.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? None? Motion's carried. Referendum, Article 13, referendum question K, to see if the town will vote to appropriate from the Tasseltop Park Enterprise Fund the amount of $50,195 for the administration of activities at the park, and to allocate all revenues generated by the park operations to be recorded and retained by the Tasseltop Park Enterprise Fund.
Motion to recommend Article 13.
Second.
Discussion?
Why is this being written this way, Kathy?
Kathy, you're muted still.
It looks like I might say something that I shouldn't say, so I have to mute myself. We wrote it this way so that all revenues would remain, they wouldn't get sucked into the general fund. They would remain as part of the enterprise fund. So it's not a raise and appropriate, it's just appropriate from a source that is a non-tax revenue. How's that?
Okay.
Yeah, so in other words, the Tasseltop is operating more or less as it did before. We had the discussion at one point whether we bring that in, show it as a revenue, and then total expense on there.
Right.
The decision was to say, okay, keep it as the enterprise so that it operates under there. But this is authorizing to take the 50,000 out of there to use against that.
Right.
Which is excess over expenses at Tasseltop.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? None? Motion is carried. To see if the town will vote to Article 14, referendum question L. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $317,800 for debt service, of which $220,000 is under the Public Works Road Construction Bond, and $97,800 is a bond payment, the 2015 bond payment.
Motion to recommend Article 14.
Second.
Discussion? All those in
What's left
favor?
on the bonds, Kathy?
I'm sorry, what?
What's the balance on the bonds now?
Oh, there's a good question. Let's see. I'll get back to you in a second.
Okay.
It's on, it was in, where the heck is it, debt service? Page 27 in the regular. We've got, let's see, 2021. I think I don't have the retirement schedule there, but I think that 2013 bond should be getting pretty close to the end too, because we get the one is a 2013 and one's a 2015.
Okay.
Where the hell is it?
Did you just say where the bleep is it?
I did. I totally did.
I can read lips.
I can hear her. She's
So-
not muted.
Um,
That one.
The 2015 has 435,000, and the 13 bond has 1 million. So 1,440,000 in total.
Thank you.
Yep.
Other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? None? Motion is carried. Referendum Article 15, question M, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $698,000 for the CIP, of which 215,000 is Public Works Equipment Reserve, 260,000 is Public Works Paving and Road Reserve, 35,000 Municipal Facilities Improvement, 68,000 is Technology, there's 75,000 Fire Department Equipment Facilities, 35,000 Playground Improvements, and 10,000 for Land Improvements.
Ralph, I think the 10,000 for the cemetery improvements, is that being carried into this year?
It's in that figure right now. Is that's not needed?
Okay.
Is
I'll
that
have to
needed?
refer to Susan. Yeah, we could use it. It's not that's absolutely, but the improvements on Raymond Hill have been completed.
Do you have a second cemetery in mind, Nathan?
We've got another half of the one on Raymond Hill that hasn't been touched.
Okay.
You guys asked for the 10.
This.
Look right there.
Yes. Well, I'm sorry.
Did-
Bill
Is-
Blood
is
came
that-
out and told me something, so I was away.
Distracted.
The $10,000 in the CIP for the cemeteries, Sue, is that for the maintenance or is that for the upgrades?
I think that was upgrade.
Okay. Oh, that's right. We just survey too, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so we doing a motion on this one? Motion to recommend?
There's a second
I'll second.
discussion. Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? None, motion's carried. Article 16, referendum question N, to see whether the town will vote to carry forward any existing fund balances in the capital improvement program accounts, the healthcare reimbursement accounts, the RSU withdrawal, legal, election, and employee compensation accounts.
Move to recommend.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Teresa?
Yep, sorry.
Motion's carried. Article 17, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $784,426 for the county tax.
Motion to
Motion
recommend.
to approve.
Little bit, motion to recommend, little bit. Yeah, really.
To approve.
Okay, all those want to vote in the affirmative? All those opposed? Motion is carried. Article 18, referendum question P, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $76,500 Raymond Village Library and provider agencies, of which 66,000 is Raymond Village Library, 2,000 provider agencies, and 8,500 for regional transport.
Motion to
Motion to
recommend the
recommend.
amount in 69,000. I'm changing the amount.
Oh,
Okay, the motion is been made
You
at
hungry?
69,000. Is there a second on that motion?
No, bundled up like a polar bear.
Nathan, zip it.
Oh,
Is there a second on the $69,000 motion?
It's 66,000 for village library, 2,000 for provider agencies, and 1,000 for the regional transport.
I'll second it just for the fact of talking about it.
Okay.
Why do you feel they should only get 1,000 instead of 8,500?
I don't even think they should get 1,000, to be honest. I think they should get zip, but I'm gonna put that 1,000 in there and be nice. Because for the last, how many years have we been asking them to come talk to us? They don't. How many years have we been saying that there's an issue, you know, and they don't come? So until they come and they call, and I have reached out and said, hey, I saw them outside after a meeting. I said, we'd love to talk to you, and they won't come talk to us. So I don't think they deserve more than that. And they know it's an issue because we've told them umpteen times.
And they have actually said they would come and talk to us, and then they never do. The issues that, you know, part of the issues that we have is that their fee structure does not seem proper. They're charging the same amount from Bridgeton to Portland as they do from Westbrook to Portland. And, you know, but they don't want to put themselves out to establish a proper fee structure and things like that. We've had questions with them on
Like for 4
ridership,
years?
things like that, and we get vague answers. We get things in generality. So we're not getting good feedback from them as to what service they're actually providing for us. And
We
so
keep saying also that every year, next year, we're not gonna do it, we're not gonna do it. Usually I'm the one saying no. So I'm gonna say 1,000 this year, but I don't think they should get any more than that. And that's just to cover the riders that go on there now. But there's not a lot of riders. Joe Bruno questions this every year. You know, that fee schedule is the same from Wyndham to Portland and Raymond to Portland as Bridgeton is to Portland. So I don't think they deserve, honestly, the 1,000, but I'll give them the 1,000.
Just to be clear, Teresa, I've said no on this for the last 5 years, and I'm saying no.
That's how long it's been an issue.
Yeah.
So if you guys, someone else wants to not second me on this thing or vote it down, I'm fine to go with another $1,000 down. I just figured,
it's been seconded. It was moved and seconded at 69,000. So that's what's under discussion right now.
so again, it's 66,000 for the library, it's 2,000 for the provider and 1,000 for transportation.
Okay, I'm gonna go on record to say I have a difficulty with 66 for the library. And the reason for that is they continue to sandbag money for some building project that they're working on. I don't think anybody's ever seen any plans. I know I haven't. And I know a couple people in this neighborhood over here that have stopped donating because they're not increasing their programming. They're increasing their building fund. They've gone from 105 to 235,000 in the last 4 years, and yet have not enhanced any programming at the library. So I would recommend 60,000 for the library. Keep them where they are.
I'm on their board and I have not seen plans yet, but they're not done finalizing them. I think it's what it is what I've been told.
Yeah, and that's been going on for a while. And there's an issue in my mind that they just do not have the land over there to build. I think there's too many things going on in that land. For example, there's a pipe underneath it, and there's a sewer line, and they had trouble siting that shed, I believe. So I think that for us to continue feeding that is wrong.
Well, let's do this once. Is Scott, you're still on?
No.
He's not? All right. I just see an S there is what it is.
I'm still
so-
here. I'm still
Oh,
here.
there you go. Can you answer Marshall's questions?
As part as whether or not they applied for anything?
No.
No, I have not seen anything come towards my office.
Okay, the question is, and I'm not sure you want to be in a position to answer this now, but the question is, do they have enough land at the library-owned land, to build a building when you consider setbacks and sewer lines and pipelines? Do they have enough land?
They have land, whether or not they can expand in the way that they wish would be something that I would need to see in writing and to look at it and determine whether or not it is feasible. They have they have more land available to them going back towards Main Street rather than laterally. They have to go back.
They do not own that land.
Yeah, I mean, it's very limited. They can't, and there is, granted, yes, there is a very small lot. Again, I'd like to see, I haven't seen any plans to determine whether or not they could be able to expand in that area or not.
But
You know,
the-
whether, if they're right now, they're more than what is allowed or not legal, non-conforming structure, they could stay within that, but they couldn't increase toward any more to make it more non-conforming, which they may, like I said, I don't know. Right now, I don't have a lot in front of me. They may be able to expand back. I don't know.
No, they can't.
But the,
So
Scott?
if they don't, they would have to come in front of the zoning board of appeals to allow for a setback on the side setback, which they would have to do it falls with the hardship clause. Are they okay to have a diminished return to what they have now? By granting this, are they giving them anything that normally they would be okay to have now? In other words, like, do they really need this addition? Does it qualify for a setback reduction?
The other thing, and then I'll stop, is if they're going to collect money for the building fund, I think they should declare that rather than people donating for just general expenses. Because they continue to sandbag the money.
But the budget that was presented to us did not include anything for reserving for building. It was that was against operational expense, so.
And that's my point exactly. They're not using the funds that they raise for expenses, as they're saying. They're sandbagging that money for building and using our money to operate the library. I don't think that's fair. And I said that last year.
Well, and you know what? It's too bad that we actually don't have somebody to even answer the questions tonight, but I guess I'm looking at it as, I mean, I questioned it too, the building, as far as saying, oh my God, they're putting this money toward this building when they could be using possibly the community center that we're doing. But right now, we can't combine the two because we don't have the community center yet. You know, and they've got to do what's best, I guess, for them, but
At this point, there has been no proposal from them for doing a building. There's discussions that they're having and things.
They
like
don't have
that.
it all together yet.
They're doing some background work and things like that, but there is no proposal for an expansion at this point. At the point that they do that, then they'd have to go through all the approvals and everything else. So, you know, but that's it. The budget that they presented did not reserve any. It was not reserving any for that. It wasn't taking any things out of that they had to reserve because they're anticipating holding some of that, but it was an operational budget.
Which I agree with.
Yeah.
But why are they taking funds that are donated to them and putting it in a building account? They should be using those for operating expenses.
Yes, they should.
Has your 69 been seconded, Teresa?
Yes.
Yeah.
I will vote for that. I've said my piece on the library.
But you know what? And then what we can do is next year we turn around and we say, okay, guess what? Hopefully we see these plans soon, but I know no, they're not ready to be shown yet. I know Sheila has some. They're being tweaked, I guess. So yeah.
So the motion that is on the floor right now, we just lost Sam's video. Oh, there he is. The motion that's on the floor right now is to move that article at 69,000, of which 66,000 is library, 2,000 provider agencies, and 1,000 regional transport.
Yes.
All those in favor? Opposed? None. Motion is carried. Article 19, referendum question Q, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a total, to see if the town will vote to appropriate the total sum of $1,607,960 from estimated non-property tax revenues to reduce the property tax commitment together with all categories of funds of which may be available from the federal government and any other sources.
Motion to recommend Article 19.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? None? Motion is carried. Article 20, referendum item Q, to see if the town will vote to accept certain state funds as provided by the Maine State Legislature during the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2020, and any other funds provided by any other entity included but not limited to municipal revenue sharing, local road assistance, emergency management assistance, snowmobile registration money, homestead exemption, tree growth reimbursement, general assistance reimbursement, veterans exemption reimbursement, business equipment tax exemption, better reimbursement, state grants or other funds.
Motion to recommend Article 20.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Article 21, referendum question S, to see if the town will vote to authorize the issuance of notes in anticipation of tax collections, TANs, in the amount up to $6 million and payments of associated debt service for the purpose of funding possible tax collection shortfalls, which such dates, maturities, denominations, interest rates, redemption provisions, and other details as the select board has determined.
Motion to recommend.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. I mean, this would only be implemented if tax revenues were to fall off so that we could not meet the obligations to get us through until property tax commitment, the property tax payments came in. At this point, our property, from what I understand, our property tax collections have been fairly close to where they should be.
They're actually running above last year, but of course, all things relative, the budgets are larger. But I think we're in very good shape, and it's been, a long time. I'm not sure that we borrowed tax notes since I've been here. So the town, I don't ever want to say it won't happen, but I think it's unlikely.
I mean, it's the purpose of that being in there is in the event that were required, and the select board could authorize it for whatever term we needed to have it. But the intent would be, and the hope would be, it would never have to be exercised.
Correct.
The $6 million, is that, what time period does that cover, Kathy? 30 days, 90 days, 6 years, 1 year?
You could do it up until the day before your year ended. You can't do it for more than a year.
Okay, that's not my question. My question is what?
How many months does that pay for?
Right.
Oh, that would be 6 months because we have 2 tax payments of 6 months each. I mean, you could do the equivalent of probably 80% of your estimated commitment, but I just figured about 6 months worth would be what we'd need.
That's fine. That's fine. Thank you.
Other questions?
No.
All those in favor? Opposed? None? Motion is carried. Article 22, referendum question T, to see if the town will vote to authorize the use of town employees and/or town-owned equipment or independent contractors hired by the town for maintenance on private roads in special and certain circumstances wherein the public's interest.
Motion to recommend Article 22.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? None? Motion is carried. Article 23, referendum question U, to see if the town will vote to appropriate the monies received from the state for snowmobile registrations not to exceed 2,000 to the Raymond Rattler Snowmobile Club for maintenance of their network of snowmobile trails on condition that those trails be open in the snow season to the public for outdoor recreational purposes at no charge, and to authorize the municipal officers to enter into an agreement with the club under such terms and conditions as municipal officers may deem advisable for that purpose.
Motion to recommend a different number. Do we want to go with the number as
No,
to
you can't.
what it
I'll
is?
put it this way, you can't because you'd be out of balance. You've already approved the 2,000 elsewhere. This is authorizing the movement of that money from that reimbursement to the account to be able to disperse to them.
Okay, 2,000.
I think we agreed last year to cap it at 2,000 anyway.
Their money, but I'm gonna keep us in sync. 2,000.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? None? Motion is carried. Article 24, referendum question Q, shall section, okay, these, now we're into the things that we discussed in the public hearing on the zoning changes and things like that. So Article 24, referendum question Q, shall section 16, administration of the Raymond Shoreland zoning provisions, section Q, appeals, 2 variance appeals, F2 as adopted May 21, 1994 and amended through June 4, 2019, be further amended by adding the underlined text in addendum 2.
Motion to recommend Article 24.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? None? Motion is carried. Article 25, referendum question W. Shall Article 13A and 13B of the Raymond Land Use Ordinance, Article 13 Open Space Subdivisions, as adopted May 21, 1994 and amended through June 4, 2019, be further amended by adding the underscored language and removing the language and strike out text as in addendum 3.
Motion to recommend Article 25.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? None? Motion is carried. Article 26, referendum question Q. Section 4, application procedure, Section 5, street design standards of the Raymond Street Ordinance is adopted May 18, 2002, and amended through June 4, 2013, be further amended by adding the underscored language and removing the language and strike out text as in addendum 4.
Motion to recommend Articles 26 and it's question X.
Second.
You said Q.
Discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor? Opposed? None? Motion carried. Article 27, referendum question Y. Shall Article 1J of the Town of Raymond subdivision ordinance as adopted May 21, 1994 and amended through June 4, 2019 be further amended by adding the underscored language and removing the language and strike out as shown in addendum 5.
Motion to recommend Article 27.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? None? Motion is carried. Article 28, referendum question Z. Shall Article 4, A, C, and D of the Raymond Land Use Ordinance is adopted May 21, 1994 and amended through June 4, 2019 be further amended by adding the underscored language and moving the language and strike out text as in addendum 6.
Motion to recommend Article 28.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? None? Motion is carried. Article 29, Question AA, shall Article 12, applicability and definitions of terms used in the ordinance, the Raymond Land Use Ordinance as adopted May 21, 1994, and amended through June 4, 2019, be further amended by adding the underscored language and removing the language and strike out in text as an addendum number 7.
Motion to recommend Article 29.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? None? Motion's carried. Article 30, referendum question AB. Shall Section 4, definitions of the Raymond Peddlers Ordinance as adopted May 21, 1994, and amended through June 4, 2013, be further amended by adding the underscored language and removing the language and strike out as shown in addendum 8.
Motion to recommend Article 30.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? None? Motion is carried. Article 31, referendum question AC. Shall Article 5, Section K, fines of the Raymond Land Use Ordinance is adopted May 21, 1994, and amended through June 4, 2019, be further amended by adding the underscored language and removing the language and strikeouts text as shown in addendum number 9.
Motion to recommend Article 31.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? None? Motion is carried. Article 32, referendum question AD. Shall Article 6, Board of Appeals, Section C, Appeals Procedure of the Raymond Land Use Ordinance is adopted May 21, 1994, and amended through June 4, 2019, be further amended by adding the underscored language and removing the language and strikeouts as shown in addendum 10.
Motion to recommend Article 32.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? None? Motion is carried. Article 33, referendum question AE. Shall Article 9, Section L, fines of the Raymond Land Use Ordinance is adopted May 21, 1994, and amended through June 4, 2019, be further amended by adding the underscored language and removing the language and strikeout text as shown in addendum 11.
Motion to recommend Article 33.
Second.
Those in favor? Opposed? None? Motion is carried. Article 34, referendum question AF. Shall a new ordinance entitled the Town of Raymond Business License Ordinance be enacted? I think there's a B missing.
Motion to recommend Article 34.
Second. As corrected.
All those in favor? Opposed? None? Motion
Do
is
it, Marshall.
carried. Okay. That's-
Done? No.
It's all corrected.
Okay. Next item is consideration of new town name.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I have found that technically we are supposed to, now that you've recommended each article, that you are supposed to approve the warrant as a whole. That's why D is in there.
Motion to recommend the article on whole.
Second.
I'm on a Zoom meeting, but it's okay. I'm muted. Why?
Scott, we can hear you talking.
Oops,
You're not-
okay.
You're not muted. He says I'm muted.
Okay. So the motion is to approve the warrant as, the total warrant as presented. It's
Second.
moved. Was it seconded?
I'll second.
Second. All those in favor? Opposed? None? Motion is carried. Okay.
Nathan's in the hot tub down there.
Okay, new road name. Who's going to run with that?
I can if you like, Dawn. It's Kayla has vetted this, made sure that it is a road name that isn't similar to anything else. It does meet the E911 addressing standards. And it's a road that's off of Mills. I'm not quite sure where.
And what's the name of it?
Lamson Lane.
All right, I make a motion to accept the new name, road name of Lamson Lane.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? None. Motion is carried. Item F, consideration of COVID-19 related renovation costs of the town office. Don, you're on.
Yes, so I spoke with Nathan earlier by telephone and got some updated costs from what we had spoken about earlier. As is often the case with updated costs, they migrated slightly upward, Rolf. And so we solicited bids for some renovations at the town office. I'll start with the creation of a workstation between the vestibule doors. So as you come in the town office to the left, there's a bulletin board. So behind the bulletin board is a closet, a storage closet. So our proposal would be to remove the storage closet, shelving and so forth, and create a very secure workspace with what I call a banker's window. It may, and I can let Nathan speak to that, it may have migrated slightly, but as secure a window as we can to the exterior between the two doors, which would enable us to have a workstation that we could actually shut off from the rest of the town office. And so for that project, we had two local contractors, only one was responsive, came back with a bid initially in the $7,000 range. We then found out that the banker type window was going to be more money. And so it's a higher quality. I spoke with Nathan. I'm in agreement with Nathan. If we're going to do it, let's do it right. So that added about $1,500. So I'm saying for that station, let's go with $9,000 to give us a little bit of, leeway. It's at about 8,500, but I'd like to have a little bit of, extra money there just in case something goes wrong. So addition to that, we have plexiglass to be installed on both counter surfaces once you come through the second door, vestibule door. So we would install that with materials that we have sourced, and then there would be aluminum tracks made by Timmins Machine in London. So you're looking at $2,000 for that. And then the final component would be some electrical work associated with all of this. That would be around $1,000. So the total budget would be about $12,000, and that hopefully will be just a bit high. So we should be under that.
What's the electrical work that has to be done?
Nathan?
The electrical work is to put an outlet in that closet area and add technology connections for Kevin.
Okay.
But I think it's going to result in a very nice space should we end up in another situation like this. I mean, I don't know that it will happen tomorrow, but I don't know the way the world is that this wouldn't be something that would be, able to be utilized in the future. And it does create for any number of reasons, I suppose, should something happen in the internal office area, you'd have an office that could service the public that would be segregated from the main office by doors.
So this is temporary? This is permanent? I saw the memo that went around, so.
Well, everything in that memo, I would tell you, Selectman Sadak, everything is temporary.
Yes, everything is temporary because that is what can be applied for.
Exactly. That's why I said temporary. Yeah.
It would be temporary. Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
And the glass, everything's temporary. And I did just quickly, I sent out a memo just before the meeting. I spoke with Bill Diamond at length last night, and he ran down the Joe Bruno, issue the other night when Joe told us about the 1.25 billion. That is true. That money is available. It's not about to be dispersed at this point, though. It's going to be, they're going to have some regulatory authority around that and how they're going to disperse it, because it's intended for cities of over 500,000 population. So the mayors are not going to be able to get that. These big town mayors, if you will, in Maine aren't going to be able to get that directly because they don't come anywhere near that level of population. So they're going to have some rules specific to Maine with federal endorsement. All of our legislative delegation, I've spoken to them all, Sue, Jessica, Bill, they're all watching this track, so let us know. And we'll be on top of that. We're keeping very good records with Kathy Ricker and Nathan and Bruce and everybody who's involved in renovations, Kathy Goslin. So we'll be set in a good position to apply for any available funding. And that's a lot of money. 1.25 billion is a lot of money. So I would be hopeful that we would be able to realize reimbursement for, these expenses.
So the there's two components in the motion that is going to be made. And what I would suggest is the motion to be made would be to authorize the temporary renovations of the town office not to exceed $12,000 for the COVID-19 remediation, with the funds being allocated out of the selectmen's $70,000 emergency funds.
Yes.
Yes, so moved on that motion that you just so eloquently put out there.
So second on your eloquent motion.
Well, I want to second that. That was such a good one.
You can third it.
I'll second it.
Further discussion. Sue, you're muted.
Yes, I was still typing. I just want to make sure I captured the motion correctly.
The eloquent motion.
Yeah, the eloquent motion, that's correct. Motion to authorize the temporary renovations of the town office not to exceed $12,000 for COVID-19 mitigation to be taken from the select board's contingency fund, and I can't do it all in one breath.
That is correct.
Okay, and may I ask who made said motion and who seconded it?
Teresa made the motion, Marshall seconded it.
Thank you. I was busy typing.
Well, if I would have made it even better, he would have corrected it anyway. So I just went with this.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? None. Motion is carried. Next item would be appointment of warden for the July 14th state primary and referendum election. Sue, are you running with that?
Yes. Yes, please. I would like to nominate Suzanne Carr to be my warden. This is going to be a joint election with a state election and a municipal election. So I need a warden for the state, and we'll probably be nominating the same person for moderator on election day.
So motion to put Sue Carr in there as the appointment of warden and the moderator.
All I can appoint is the warden right now.
Okay, warden.
Second on the warden.
All those in favor? Opposed? None. Motion is carried. Consideration of annual staff appointments.
And Rolf had indicated that you folks may not meet in June, so I asked that we bring forward the year-end appointments now, out of the way.
Before we do that, do we need to move a moderator, Sue?
No, because the moderator is always elected from the floor. So
Right.
if you'd like to do that, you can come on election day and make it
No. I meant we move Sue Carr as warden.
correct.
You need to move the moderator there.
No,
Okay, thank you.
she'll be voted from the floor.
All right.
Okay, so you've got the that's what, page 108. Nathan, I think Nathan needs you. There we go. Appointment of municipal officers and municipal staff. So you've got the list that's there. You've got animal control officers, Jessica Jackson, code enforcement officer, Scott Dorbeck, constable, Nathan White, emergency management director, Bruce Tupper, fire chief, Bruce Tupper, forest warden, Bruce Tupper, general assistance administrator, Jenny Silverblade, harbor master, Don Willard, health officer, Kathy Goslin, road commissioner, Nathan White, tax collector, Suzanne Carr, town clerk, Sue Look, treasurer, Kathy Ricker, weights and measure inspector, Gregory Joy.
Motion to accept the annual staff appointments.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? None. Motion is carried. Consideration of annual board and committee appointments.
And these are the non elected positions that are up this year. And our annual appointments, as you'll see by the term column of 1 or 3.
Okay,
What page are we on, please?
so that is page 109.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to move that slate as presented on?
Yeah, so moved. The annual board and committee appointments.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? None? Motion is carried. Fee schedule we already did. Did I miss anything in there?
I looked back through and I don't believe so.
I think we hit everything. RSU 14 committee update is we are still, the RSU 14 lawyer is holding us up. Why, we don't know. So we are trying to find out. Once he stops holding us up, we can then get the finalization done to the withdrawal agreement, and then we can move on to the rest of the items that we need to do on there. Public comment.
No phone calls.
No phone calls?
Nope.
Selectman comment.
Hey,
Yes.
are people gonna be able to see this live on, like, is it gonna be ran on the TV?
It has been live streamed and it will be on YouTube sometime tomorrow morning.
Okay, so I want to put this out there. Alice Bradeen from Raymond here, I think she lives in Casco now. She has started a Facebook page and it's called History of Raymond and Lakes Region Area. She's putting a bunch of old pictures before, and it's pretty cool. She's got a lot of stuff in here started, and people are getting on it too. So if you get a chance, join it. It is really cool. It's on Facebook. Again, it's History of Raymond and Lake Regions Area.
Sounds great.
Yeah, it's really cool. They showed the Main Street, the fire station beforehand, with the building that was there.
Has she ever looked at the Ernie Knight books? Raymond Now?
I don't know if she did or not, but what she's been doing is pulling stuff from her family that they had too. Lori Brown and Dan Brown from Main Street, and information on that. They had like on the corner there, Janny Cummings' house, and how that looked and stuff like that. And she's putting a lot up. It's pretty cool.
Well, the other reason I mention that is if she's having a hard time identifying things, if she goes to those books, and both of those are in the library, there's a
And then and now the 1 and 2. I remember that. Yeah.
yeah, there's two editions of it, and Ernie did a lot of research on that. So if she's having something she's having a hard time identifying, she may be able to find it in there.
Well, and I think what they're doing, I mean, they're putting up like old menus. They put up the town clerk stuff on here too, which was pretty cool. The Good Life Market right now in the corner of 302, they have just put up last night what it used to look like and stuff. So yeah, join it. It's pretty cool.
Okay, other selectmen comments? Okay, town manager report.
Okay, thank you. Confirm dates for upcoming regular meetings. As Sue said, for June, that'll be determined. We'll be in touch about scheduling for that possibly, and then beyond. Reminder of upcoming holiday schedule, Monday, May 25th, Memorial Day. Reminder of upcoming election schedule, Monday, June 29th, deadline to change parties before the primary election. Tuesday, July 9th, deadline to request absentee ballots. Tuesday, July 14th, state primary and referendum elections, RSU 14 referendum election, and municipal election of officers and referendum elections, annual town meeting warrant articles to be voted via secret ballot. And I think Sue has a special announcement she wants to make that makes her life really happy and easy about this whole thing, right, Sue?
Yeah, it should make it lots of fun. Governor, I found out this morning, and I don't know when the governor did this, I just found out this morning, has decided to, in one of her edicts, take away the deadline for requesting an absentee ballot. So someone can come into the polls even, ask for an absentee ballot, go home and vote it and bring it back to me, causing us to fill out all kinds of lovely paperwork. So, so the absentees, there won't be a deadline. For the past, I'm gonna say 7 or 8 years anyway, might be a little bit longer than that. We do have no reason absentee voting in Maine, but for the last 4 days rather, you do have to have a reason. And it can't be, I suddenly remembered I'm going to Disney. I've now suddenly called away. Suddenly is the magic word, actually. I'm suddenly going to be in the hospital. Things along that line, as opposed to, I just forgot and gee, you're gonna give me one, right? It's going to be a nuisance for us, but it's going to be potentially very difficult for places like Portland, Lewiston, Bangor, because they use those 4 days and I use those 4 days to complete the voter list. And if you're still updating absentees on it, it's difficult to do that. The system automatically marks those who voted absentee so that we don't have to go through the list manually. And that's going to mean more manual going through the list.
I'd like to say one other thing if I could. I would like to thank our elected and appointed officials, our volunteer committee members, certainly our town employees over the past 2 months, and our citizens for their understanding and patience with us. But, you know, I would tell you that the town, top to bottom, all elements of the town have worked together, worked with our schools, worked with our county, state. And so we're going to get through this thing. It's been difficult, it's been challenging, but I've really been heartened by the cooperation and just the way the town has come together, and, you know, local organizations, churches, community groups, you name it. I'm probably leaving somebody out, but everybody's worked together, and I'm very proud of where we've ended up so far with respect to revenue collections and continuity of government and business. And some towns are in really bad shape. We're not in really bad shape. We're going to come out of this, and we're going to learn some lessons. Things are going to be different in government. Things are going to be different in our everyday lives. But I'm very happy with how things have gone. And I want to say to people out there, anybody out there who has a need, who has, you know, unmet issues, you know, we're here. We want to help you. Come forward, and we'll try our best to get you in touch with the entity, if it's not the town, that can help you. And so we're here for the townspeople. And I want to thank you all, Board of Selectmen, for your support.
Thank you too, Don.
Don, on the subject of getting out to people that may need help, Kathy Goslin has done a great job of organizing and getting the phone calls made, and she's done a great job.
Well, since you called her out individually, I would tell you that, you know, there are a number of people, but we have had a core of people who have been providing services, and, you know, leading among them, you know, would be Kathy Goslin and certainly Bruce Tupper, Nathan White, Sue Look, Kathy Ricker, you know, and then our staff people, you know, the counter people who have come in and you know, as I said, I'm going to leave people out. So I'm just saying that you're absolutely right. But I mean, Kathy Goslin has done grants and been right at the head of the pack. So thank you for that.
Kathy Goslin has always been top shelf. She's always put her other people in front of her. She's a very, very nice lady. And like, you can't label certain people because there's just so many. So
I also think I have Scott Dvorak on the line. I forgot Scott, of course, and our new Joe Crocker. I knew I'd forget people, but Scott's been coming in, making it happen on weekends and evenings. And Joe has come into a new job that it would be tough enough to start a new job, but to start a new job, build a new department during a pandemic, not the most fun in the world, you know?
Yep, I agree.
There's Kayla with the communications. You know, we've got a lot of people working together.
I think Kathy missed on the sunshine, Lonnie.
What's that?
I said, I think Kathy missed all the sunshine you blew to us there, Lonnie.
Oh, Bob will fill her in.
No, they're pushing the camera back and forth with each other. And
That was Kathy Goslin. We got Kathy Ricker just returned, but a little son.
But I will, you know, I mean, there has been a lot of efforts from an awful lot of people, and we know that we ain't there yet. So there's there's gonna be a lot more from a lot, you know, that people, you know, we've got things coming up this summer, like with the food programs and things like that. So there's, you know, I guess the other thing is for people in town, that if they're looking for ways that they can help, call the town office and see how they can help. If they can, you know, it could be from donations, it could be from, you know, helping out in the community, anything like that. But there, you know, more hands will make things easier for a lot of people. But you know, the guidance is, you know, the guidance is going to come out of the town hall, but it needs people to help make it work outside as well.
That's all I have.
Okay, if that, then the next thing will be a move to go into executive session. And once we do go into executive session, then anyone, all with the exception of those invited in the executive session, will have to sign off, or we can knock somebody off if they don't, if they.
look at them all leave all of a sudden. It's starting to go down. All right, motion to go into executive session pursuant to MRSA 1, Section 405, 6F.
I second.
Okay, we will go into executive session. So Sue, I think you'll stay on, but everyone else, I think will be dropping off.
Can I say one last thing, Rolf? I'm sorry. I forgot Woodbury and Woodbury Consulting. Without whom you wouldn't be doing this tonight.
Yes. Thank you, Kevin.
All right, a motion to come out of executive session?
Second.
All those in favor? Motion is approved. We're out of executive session.
Motion to approve as discussed in executive session, the scholarship funding and the student recognition.
Second.
All those in favor? Approved.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Third.
All those in favor?
Fifth.
Thank you all. Have a great night.
All right.
Good night, guys.
Bye, guys. Thank
Good evening. Welcome to the May 21st Budget Finance Committee meeting that we will be deliberating the Selectmen's warrant articles. First order of business is to approve the minutes of the March 3rd meeting. May I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I need a second, please.
I second.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion on the March 3rd meeting minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Now I'm looking to for a motion on the May 18th meeting, which was this past Monday night. There were members of our committee that were not present at that meeting. So those that were, I entertain a motion for those minutes.
Make a motion to approve.
Second,
Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand.
Aye. If I
Any
can make a
opposed?
suggestion, the state law doesn't allow you to just raise your hand. You actually have to take a roll call. So if you just say aye, it allows you to do this. I have run a lot of these Zoom meetings for the state, so you need to take a roll call on every motion because not everyone is watching.
Right.
So just as a suggestion, just take a quick roll call or say aye.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Next
And
order of business,
Mr. Chairman,
yes,
another reason for I is I can't see Karen. She's blacked out,
okay,
so.
so we will go with aye. There you go. Next is to review the budget warrant articles. I have a few rules of the road. First, I will read the warrant article completely. Then I will entertain a motion and a second prior to any discussion. After all discussion is complete, I will call for a vote. When asking for a vote, I ask for you to say aye until the vote count is finished. I want to remind Budget Finance Committee members that all motions are to be made either to recommend or not recommend the warrant article. That means we cannot make a motion to change the monetary amount in that warrant article. That being said, gotta turn on this device. I feel like Lonnie here. Oh, where did that go? We'll start with Article 3, referendum question A.
Bob,
Yes,
Crystal is trying to get in and she's having problems.
okay.
I just sent her the Zoom link.
Okay.
I'll continue. Article 3, referendum question A, to see if the town will vote to set the date of the first half of taxes due to October 31st, 2020, and the second half of taxes due to April 30th, 2021, and set the interest rate for unpaid balances and for abated taxes at